What do we do now? And with the way they won, with the way they've been playing, I think, like you said, the harken back to what would have been, I think, Epsilon, right? That's their first win. Going into their second season now would be the NRG. That's how I feel the Kings' energy has really started to mount up. We'll find out if the Warriors are able to match it. It's been a lot of time talking about the Kings, and it is this ragtag group of mechanical geniuses that I think is going to try to give them some trouble today. We'll see what they have to offer for us. The Warriors start off picks and bans their first pick. They ban out the Emoja. Kings answer back with the Nox. Terra immediately is the follow-up. And so I think we're starting to find a pattern here, Mifflin. So far, it's 2 towards Genetics, 1 towards Jake, 1 towards Panitom, now in the Thor. You have to ask yourself, what other top picks? Aphrodite still available. Cernunnos is 100% pick ban. And the only other gods that have gotten close to that, Yamoja, Terra already being banned out, means that Susano, 92% pick ban, and that Ishtar, sitting at that 84%, could be pretty high up here. This is the question. Are you willing to try and beat the Afro?
Does Jake have an Afro?
Does Jake have an Afro?
It's hard to say.
If Jake doesn't, does Dardes have an Afro? Or not Dardes, does Pegon have an Afro?
But then if you've got Pegon on the Afro, you don't get to play with the 10-3 changes nearly as much.
Yeah.
What makes Aphrodite so strong is that she gives over the prot, right? You can
it's so good.
Essentially, if you are a full defense Aphrodite and you kiss your jungler who has gone 6 damage items, by the way.
Yep.
He's also prot capped.
Yep.
It's just feed the king composition, right? That's my one guy, please carry me. It's a strategy that I think the Oni Warriors could lean into, especially with Panitom out of the jungle. I think certainly a player that you would want to give over all that defense to. But when I think of Jake, the closest thing that he's got to an Aphrodite might just be that Nox. For the first time at this event, and for the first time in 10-3, Aphrodite left available and immediately taken by the Oni Warriors. You just gotta think it's support.
I honestly, and I'm thinking if anything else gets picked right there. First off, me and you are actually screaming. I think, like, raging at them.
I wouldn't rage.
Maybe a little bit.
I'm even
like
keel.
Teensy bit. Like a little baby rage.
Yeah,
like little baby rage. But also, you have to think that would be absolutely devastating if Genetics got his hands on it on the other side. So the Warriors get to be the first team to try her out, show us what she has. I'm interested.
Maybe this is why the Camelot Kings keep losing their scrims to the Oni Warriors. They let the Aphrodite through. Could be. I mean, obviously, we've got no data on that. For now, all you need to know, Aphrodite less healing. No longer does the healing scale off of power. And her kiss does damage to enemies and gives over protections to your connected allies. So, a very strong utility god, has got a bit more flexibility now. If you want to play her full mage, I mean, that is certainly a viable avenue, but I feel like that protection just has to be the most valuable part of this kit now. I mean, conjecture. We haven't seen it at the pro level of play, so we'll get a good idea of it as the rest of the draft starts.
What if she's like really good in casuals, really good in ranked, really good in scrims, but absolutely awful when it comes to actual competitive?
Oh, it's
also
not
there's
support.
a Maui.
Yeah, it can't be support now. Aphrodite Susano, you're joking.
Are they memeing?
You're joking. I mean, it's a good combo. It's the E-Girl, E-Boy combo for a reason.
Yeah.
It works. Get your pocket medic and have your Susano run it down. Maybe you go a pseudo-utility build, just like a little bit of protections on a mid. You can go those new healing items, and then your Susano's still going crazy. It's definitely different. I really was hedging my bets that Aphrodite was headed for the support role. If you do still want full tank, there is the option to take Afro over into the soul lane, and then you benefit from the blue buff.
Yeah.
Hard to say. Everything I had thought about Aphrodite is now already out the window.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff. I mean, we were talking about prots and everything, right? I mean, that's such a huge deal. Not a lot to her mage play. I mean, I guess the cooldown on her birds, right? That affects mage
cooldown on
play
birds,
still
damage on kiss.
The jealousy buff immediately on ult as well can help things out. So that, at least a few things in the kit maybe still applying even if the prots aren't there. Maybe lets you play a little more with your build if it's in mid. Guess we have to see where it ends up going. It's Kern, Hebo, Hercules on the other side to oppose the Afro, Maui, Susano for the Warriors. The Kings start banning out the Ishtar. Warriors go for the Khepri.
Genetics can't catch a break.
Yeah, honestly, I'm wondering if they took that Maui not necessarily because they wanted it, or because they didn't want Genetics to pick it, and they didn't have enough bans to control them. They're like, well, we can shift Aphro. She doesn't have to be support.
It's just ridiculous how much of a lightning rod he is for this team. Like, anything the Kings want, they get except for their support pick, right? I mean, and even then, how much worse is Genetics' 9th best pick to his first best pick? It feels like every one of those could have just been absolutely dominant in his hands, and I'm sure whatever he does decide to lock in will look very good as well. Looking at the composition as it stands for the Camelot Kings, I would like to see a facilitator for Genetics. Doesn't necessarily need to get in anybody's face. You've got the Hercules who can do that on his own, so instead of front-to-back style Guardian that can either make the decision to play in that front line or in that back line and peel out for the Hebo and Cern, I think would suit them well. The Oni Warriors, on the other hand, I mean, it's a king protection comp when you got the Aphrodite, and the king is Susano this time around. A lot of damage output, great ability to 100 to 0. Susano, of course, it's a meme. He won't 100 to 0 you. Spoiler alert, he will. But if he doesn't, back off will. Does damage around whoever you're kissed. And assuming that it is going to be Aphrodite out of some sort of damage roll, that back off does upwards of 6, 7, even 800 damage to squish your targets in the late game.
It can hit so massively hard, and if you're close enough to them, they're getting double tapped by it, right? So you're doing so much that you can potentially find out. I also had an Afro game the other day, and I did a back off and pushed someone out of Katie's raw ult.
Perfect.
So massive plays that are coming down from me. The Baba Yaga gets locked in. You're talking about late game, damage, late game hyper carry, Susano 100 to 0ing people. Maybe not the 100 to 0 part, but at least a lot of those other things. Maybe not hyper carry, but damage and late game apply to Baba Yaga pretty well. And it feels like, and you were talking about this earlier, if the Kings are playing for a game, they're typically going a little longer. Yeah, you can run at them. You could dominate them in the first 15 minutes if you really want, but how often does that turn into a win? The Warriors will have to answer that.
Is it Afro solo?
With Morrigan? I mean, you have
Is it Afro Susano duo lane?
But then where does Maui
the Jing
go?
Wei, and then okay, you're right. Okay, so we've got Maui, Jing Wei in the lane. The Morrigan
mid, Susano
got him mid.
solo,
It's Aphrodite
Afro
solo. Yeah.
But honestly, for SOT, one, he likes playing things that aren't necessarily quote unquote the meta in solo. You had mentioned it as something that could go solo. It allows you to get the prots. Do you like it better solo versus mid?
I have to assume so. Anywhere where I'm getting protections on my Aphrodite is where I want my Aphrodite. So heading over to the solo lane, you could trust her to leave alone on an island. You don't necessarily need to facilitate SOT on this god. He's going to sustain himself. The only thing you need to do is make sure you're on time for the blue buff. Blue buff defense at that. Don't necessarily even need to run it down and get aggressive. So just make sure you're on top of that timer. Aphrodite largely self-sufficient after that as he starts to build up a little bit of damage, assuming that's the case. Assuming he does start to build up a bit of damage, he can start sowing that blue buff a little bit later on. And then in the absolute latest portions of the game, you've got double Susano potentially, or a Hebo stolen away if the King's jungler gets off to a fast start. So I like this draft from the Oni Warriors. And even in looking at how unorthodox it appears, as far as ease of play and 5-on-5 execution, you've got linear initiation from the Maui. Susano, massive AoE CC, always simplifies your team fight. Hit the guys that are knocked up by Typhoon. Generally, things go pretty well. Jing Wei to deal with your objectives, and resustain potential from Aphrodite means that the longer fights go in neutral territory, you're probably going to favor the Oni Warriors, even with Sylvanus on the other side. He can heal everybody, but he's not healing nearly as much or likely as often as this Aphrodite will. I love this draft from the Oni Warriors. The Camelot Kings, on the other hand, have got themselves their standards. These are largely standard picks for them. CaptainTwig has been developing this Hebo for what feels like 4 or 5 months now. Otherwise, the rest of the composition just thinks that each one of these players have been playing a fair deal. The only thing that isn't within the standard for the Kings is the Sylvanus, but it's genetics, and if it's a Guardian, genetics can play it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this Sylvanus specifically, how well, maybe, like, I mean, you had mentioned, like, healing, how it's going to keep up, but setup-wise, it feels like it's going to be, I think, incredibly solid, right? With the rest of the team, you've got a Hercules, so your front line feels strong, the knock-up that it can bring is incredible, you're going to be laning with the Cernunnos here, feels like their clear should be pretty solid. That's going to cause, I think, a little bit of trouble for the Jing Wei and the Maui.
It could. Jing Wei can at least immune that knock-up from the ultimate, use that dash to escape that situation. I think what really this Sylvanus is going to do is disrupt the initiation of the Oni Warriors. If it's Susano going in first, starting with that pull and then channeling that first ability. Just go into your knockup immediately.
Yep.
And he's not allowed to finish channeling the first. Gets stuck in place and likely will just fall prey to the chain CC that the Camelot Kings have got with their multitude of knockups between Hercules and Habois as well. So the Camelot Kings, it's deal with whoever goes in. I think that's what this draft is very, very good at. Just disrupt the initiation, counterplay, anti-fun for the Oni Warriors, essentially.
Well, we'll find out. Is the anti-fun enough, or is the Afro going to carry him to victory? It's game number 1, and it's J-Mac and Trelly.
We've been waiting all weekend to see if an Aphrodite would make its way through. Will it check off a bingo slot? No, it will not, because it is not an Aphrodite support. So I get to wait to see if we can ever scratch that one off the bingo card. It's J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug. Jumping in for game number 1 between the Oni Warriors and the Camelot Kings for our first time. We're going to see the Aphrodite, and what better way to couple it, Trelly, than to also throw it with the Susano on the same squad.
Yeah, it is one of those, quote, cringe compositions that no one likes to deal with, but I think there is a big weight on Panitom's shoulders to make this pick work. It is not really up to Sot because he's in solo lane. He's by himself. Panitom has to go over to solo lane to defend that blue buff. Panitom has to come over and say, hey, real quick, you know, let's link and then we'll defend our blue buff. Maybe we can go invade. We're a very strong 2v2. If not, if you're leaving Sot on an island, he's going to have a rough time. I mean, he's going to get bullied by Variety. CaptainTwig can come over. If you get that knockup, you pretty much guarantee the kill, have no time to find your immunity. I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of weight on Panitom's shoulders to say, hey, we're not just going to sit back and wait till late game, because if you try that, you might not get the build online. Aphrodite, Susano is a lethal combination, full build. Up until that point, they're going to have to group up. And it really depends on where Panitom wants to look, because if we're going off of how he's been playing in this tournament recently, there was a lot of dual lane camping, a lot of playing through Netrioid with Awesome Jake on the left side of the map. Your Aphrodite's just going to be left alone on an island in that case.
Panitom going to be picking up the red buff this time around. Wonder if this is something that the Oni Warriors are cooking up here. Give a little bit of extra damage over to Panitom in the early game on this Susano. Give Pegon a little bit of extra mobility. Maybe to move around the jungle with CaptainTwig going for a very early rotation. A pickup on SOT. A blink water hand for CaptainTwig. Sot falling low. The water's got to be there.
Yep.
CaptainTwig, less than 40 seconds into the game, as strikes first blood for the Camelot Kings.
And that's the first of many. I can assure you Twig will be back at that blue buff, and Panitom has two options. Say, hey, let's try and fight the Hercules Hebo, or, sorry bro, you're the one who picked Afro, I'm gone. I'm going to help the other side of the map. I've always thought that this buff was fantastic, you know, if you get to late game, but what does Afro do in that position? Stay under tower the rest of the game? You're going to fall behind, and you think Variety's just going to not invade everything in the meantime. The Camelot Kings had this plan down pat. They said, hey, let's not ban Afro and see if we can get ahead. But again, still a very lethal combination if it gets online.
Now, the Camelot Kings have also drafted something we haven't seen really this weekend, the Sylvanus, who, as we know by 10.3, was affected by some of the healing changes. Less value on the heal for the Wisp, but Charlie, something interesting coming back from Sylvanus that we haven't seen since pretty much his debut as a god. Those Wisps can now actually heal and damage minions again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You sounded so excited about that.
No, because there was a reason we got rid of it, right? It
doesn't do as much. I believe it's only 25% of the value.
He is not as strong as he once was, but it can add up. It can be definitely annoying in lane. The good news is this isn't that much of a kill lane. I mean, Jarcorrr, once he gets an item or two online, the Cernunnos can be lethal, but you're up against a Jing, a Maui, extremely safe in their own right. Unless we see junglers head over, I don't think there's going to be too much fighting. But you already know, there's only one spot these junglers can be right now, and it's at that blue buff spawn. I want to pay attention to the right side of the map to see, is Panitom going to come over? Is CaptainTwig going to look for the invade? Looks like no. Just heading back to base for now. Panitom is going to hover, though. Does not want SOT getting even more far behind, because he knows, hey, that's the guy who's going to give me immunity, give me protections, keep me healed up. We got to make sure that blue buff stays up.
Got to protect. Solo Aphrodite maybe get a kill onto Variety. Pull back. A back off will send Variety away. Waiting out the jet stream. Gets a push onto Panitom under the tower. Misses the pickup after, but Variety will live through the initial onslaught. CaptainTwig rotating over just to give Variety some help at the blue buff. And now an invade by Jake at the purple buff. He's by himself up against now Jarcorrr and Genetics. Can try and go over the wall. Pull. Well, at least get him out of the sky for a moment, but still has it available to get back through. So unsuccessful invade by the Oni Warriors support, and an unsuccessful kill by the Warriors on the right side of the map as well.
Yeah, it's going to be an attempt. I want to keep my eyes on Pegon as well, because with the Morrigan and Doom Orb, you had that opportunity to go left. You had that opportunity to go right. You clear one wave, get that movement speed, your stealth. BMT lose track of you for a second, and then there's a second jungler coming through with a massive gank. He always does have that ability, but so far it's been just farming. You're up against Ababa and BigManTingz. If you're paying attention to how much he's been farming this tournament, he's been getting 2-3 levels ahead out of nowhere. So making those key rotations into the jungle, just walking away for a bit, and somehow you're a level down. Pegon does not want that to happen to him, so he's been able to stay pretty farmed up and has not used that ultimate. Just clear waves, clear green buff, clear mids, stay back to mid. But that option is always there. The Morrigan is one of those picks that can make a huge difference if you lose track of her, even for a second.
Oh no, Shirley, I just thought of something.
Don't say it. No, don't say double Afro. I don't want to hear it.
No, double.
Okay,
well, also, yes, double Afro.
I don't
You
wanna
reminded me
hear
of that. No. If Pegon turns into Susano, which one does SOT throw the kiss to? Does he throw it to Panitom or does he throw it to Pegon? He's got to play favorites now.
And that's the thing. That's why you simply double kiss Panitom and let him just frag everyone.
No. Gets double immunity, double jealousy. Oh my lord. Yeah, no, you made it worse. I wasn't even thinking that bad.
I always think worse when you tell me you thought of something gross. I mean, how bad did you want me to go at this point?
Yeah, that's bad.
And with regrowth, you're going to be zooming all across the map, has the conduit to actually get some damage. I mean, Gemma focus late game, Aphrodite spamming abilities. It's only been the one gank, though. I really did think Twig would be spending a lot more time at that blue buff. But so far, probably fears a little bit of what Panitom's able to do. Hasn't even gotten the Transcendence online yet, so I'm thinking that 1v1, Twig gets the better end of, especially if variety is there. And more specifically, if SOT has not landed that kiss and gives him an immunity to Crushing Wave, arguably the biggest burst ability on the map right now.
Speaking of, CaptainTwig been very quiet ever since that first blood, as you mentioned, but is now finally been able to go back, pick up the Doom Orb, same with Pegon. He's able to get one of his for himself as well. So a little bit more mobility across the board for these two mages, but where would CaptainTwig maybe put some of that priority? It was in the right lane, try and take down SOT, who's stepping up a bit far. Knock him off the mark by Variety, but CaptainTwig is here and shown SOT that there are two threats now standing around this blue buff, but Sot's still pushing up because he's got Panitom and Pegon both on the way to give him an assist. Won't be able to take away the blue buff this time around, but Pegon gonna go for a sneaky red buff steal. BigManTingz a little late on rotation to try and stop that.
Yeah, Genetics was on the way, but they were not able to stop Pegon. Maybe catching him out the mids. The blink comes through, gets him out of stealth. How much damage can you really get? It looks like turning to Susano. They want to turn this.
Pegon gonna go away though. Knock by Genetics on a Panitom. Typhoon goes through, but so does the damage from Twig and Genetics, and now it's a 4 versus 3 because the house is on its way. BigManTingz drops a couple of fireballs on top of SOT, but it's not enough. Pegon detransforms, finds the stun on Variety. The Yonk comes through, but a pull for Genetics brings it back in. Boulder doesn't find the value they want, and now Netrioid has joined the fray. But Awesome Jake, well off the mark from the Maui pull, misses all 4 targets of the Kings, who have backed away.
Yeah, Genetics gets credit for that kill. Beautiful engage. I thought Panitom was going to go in, sort of try to save Pegon and then dip out, but when you have 2 Susanos, you feel a little bit more confident. Goes in and beautiful ultimate. Good damage from CaptainTwig to confirm that one. Stuns out Tiggs and gets the beads, and here come the Warriors. They want this kill, and they got it.
It's just a weird position that BMT puts himself in.
That was the greed re-invade. He's like,
Yeah,
you take my red, I'm going to take
yours.
But
unfortunately for him, he died,
Yep.
and Pegon didn't, so Pegon's the one laughing now. Panitom tries to find a pull to Variety, but Variety just a little too privy to that invade. Able to walk back up into the lane, into the tier 1 tower, and avoid Panitom and SOT this time around. The Arc didn't rotate to that last fight. We saw Netrioid make his way over, but most of that thanks to at least the passive of the Jing Wei, being able to go back and rejoin the fight quickly. So Jarcorr's been getting a little bit of solo farm over here on this left side.
yeah, unfortunately not too much. As you said, you can just fly over, see if the fight's going well. If it's not, you just fly back. That is some of the freedom that Jing Wei provides. And it looks like the wave was already extremely pushed up, so just a good time to rotate out for net. Jarcorrr does have that level lead and should be able to take 1v1s pretty much whenever, but with that safety of Jing Wei also comes the fact that you really don't want to fight too often. Until you get some crits online, you're not taking that chance. And I want to see exactly where Twig decides to spend his time. Ult for ult, what you could expect. I think Variety was pretty happy with just grabbing the immunity there. Now, hey, there's going to be a Hebo ult coming, but here comes Panitom and Pegon seeing if they can find Variety. Not going to feel too confident trying to kill this Hercules, though. He's pretty tanky.
Genetics even rotating over to the right side of the map as well. While Jake will go for a green invade, but Yark spots him out. Pegon joins the fray. It's now 2 versus 1. Yark has got to run, but the hook will miss from Awesome Jake. That opens up the opportunity for Yark to at least defend this green buff. But now, maybe a 2v2 or 2 individual 1v1s on the right side. Twig has spotted out Panitom, who will use all of his mobility to get out. SOT doesn't have ult anymore, but not much kill pressure with Variety, his boulder being down and CaptainTwig being so far out.
Genetics even made the rotation over. I wanted to see how much they could really force on that right side. No CC was hitting. I think Panitom was a little bit too onto that gank, or I guess the rotation attempt, and decided to back off. It's difficult to try and chase down a Susano. Even with Blink, you know, hey, if I blink in, he's going to blink my blink, and then I have nothing. But a blue buff invade could be big here. 3v2, but here comes Awesome Jake.
Jake plucks 2 with the ultimate. Just off the mark from grabbing Genetics, but he goes back in. Now it's a 3v3. CaptainTwig's already used the ult. BigManTingz is here, and CaptainTwig is nearly gone. Pegon will take him out, and BMT up in the house being run at by 3. Pegon finds the double kill. The Oni Warriors defend their buff. But now what will they do? Still about a 1,500 gold lead even after that fight, up in favor of the Camelot Kings. But a great turnaround fight off the invade.
Yeah, that's just not a great fight to take. I mean, I like the 3v2, but you see Jake come over, you're still feeling pretty confident. But the difference between BigManTingz making a rotation and Pegon making a rotation is Baba Yaga is not online yet. The Morrigan becomes online at level 5 when she gets access to whatever jungler ult she wants. In this case, Pegon just absolutely destroys Tings in the ultimate. Can't use any relics when you're in Home Sweet Home, and Beads wasn't going to save you from the Susano damage. So 2-0 for Pegon. As you said, still behind the team, but it looks like Sot, once again, is going to have to run away. Doesn't have the immunity. How much damage can they find? Driving strike off the mark.
And that's going to be Boulder. Ultimate not up for Sot. And that's the kill for the Camelot Kings, punishing SOT for using the ult during the last little team fight over by the Fire Giant pit. That's 2 deaths now on the Aphrodite. CaptainTwig and Variety did have to use quite a bit in order to get that one, though. Variety using his ultimate. Be a little while before that one comes back up. CaptainTwig even expending the blink, so it's some time before he has his safety and initiation back online. But that allows the Camelot Kings to keep this lead up, 2,000 gold in favor of the Kings.
Yeah, I would say whenever Pegon's ult is down, you have the ability to dive tower. Like, there's not much damage coming from Susano at the moment. Pegon Susano is a different story because he can use that mark and then make that transformation. But Panitom has 27 stacks on Transcendence and a mace to his name. It's not quite as much damage as CaptainTwig, who just backed up, got the Spear of Deso, full Doom Orb, and of course, the Hercules that is 2 levels up. You're not really fighting on the right side of the map here. I want to see grouping towards Gold Fury pretty much immediately. Maybe Variety goes back to base, upgrades teleport, and heads right over because the fight surely in favor of the Camelot Kings.
Panitom tries to get out, but BMT goes up into the house, pulled back through the mystical Alua by Awesome Jake. That allows Panitom to get back out of danger, but now it's set up for the Pyromancer. 3 members of the Kings here, Jarcorrr on the way. Jake unaware that Yark is about to rotate out from behind him. Jake trying to buy some time, throws out the ultimate, but not going to find anything this time. Now, without an ult, has to get some help from SOT. CaptainTwig immediately ults away, but Yark Aegis under the tower to keep away from the damage of Pegon. Patiently wait the Kings, and Variety going to set up, but an immediate ultimate from Sot will get him and Netrioid out of danger.
Great pull there. CaptainTwig taking a little bit of a fight with Panitom, but doesn't want to dive behind 5 Camelot Kings. Variety, he's not done though. He's the tankiest character on the map, and he's going to keep running at anyone he can find. As you said, Pyromancer goes down, but it doesn't look like the Kings are done. They want to rotate over to this Gold Fury, and they've got a pretty good opportunity for it. Panitom on the right side of the map, he's the only ultimate available, and the Kings have plenty.
Fury nearly down. Genetics will body block just in case someone were to pop by. There's not much for the Oni Warriors to do. It's the Gold Fury to the Camelot Kings, the Runic Bomb actually expended to make sure that that one goes down safely for the Camelot Kings. They continue to expand their gold lead. Trelly, we're nearing 4,000 gold with even dead even on the kills. Just the farm game of the Kings on the map has been so explosive.
And that's just how the Camelot Kings decide to play. And again, I truthfully believe they baited this pick out. Like, hey, Afro's not going to be a threat if we can play our style, if we can get ahead early. And it doesn't look like Panitom has been able to combo with SOT much at all. It's been a whole lot of Pegon turning into that Susano, looking for solo opportunities whenever they can force BigManTingz out. But that lane is doomed. SOT is underneath the tower, and Variety is diving as much as he wants. There really is no opportunity to look for farm on the right side of the map, and Jarcorrr, he's got no threat. He's up against a Jing Wei, and Netrioid is not looking to fight. He makes rotations in, but he's not saying like, hey, Panitom, you can come over here. We can look for opportunities. So this Susano is just running out of farm to get.
Which really feels kind of uncharacteristic of Netrioid, because whenever we think about Netrioid in Season 8, Season 9, very privy to wanting to box up against his opponents time and time again, one of the most soloing hunters at that point, but it just feels so strange to see him now on the Jing Wei and now having to lose out on his Tier 1 tower. As you mentioned, already nowhere for Panitom to go just because of the nature of God that Netrioid is playing. Now, there's no Tier 1 tower for him to fall back for safety either.
Nope. He is going to sit around and say, oh, awesome, Jake's here. I can clear the wave. If not, I'm probably going to be staying pretty far back. Good news is, no real objectives to be looked at after this point. Camelot Kings have taken everything off the map that they want. And now probably just going to roam, see if they can find someone in the jungle. We saw CaptainTwig look towards the right. SOT's not leaving that tower. He's got his regrowth, he's got his Genjis. He doesn't want to fight anyone. He just wants to try and link up with, again, Pegon is the only opportunity for now. Brawler's beat 6 online though, so Panitom can do a bit more damage, apply some of that anti-heal. I'm thinking it's going to have to be a huge play by Pegon if the Oni Warriors want to try and win a fight anytime soon around these objectives, because the Morrigan has that opportunity. He can stealth into the backline, hit a big stun, followed by double Susano, especially if Sat's there. They still do have opportunities to try and make some comebacks.
Look what BigManTingz is cooking up here in his build. Book of Thoth into Ratatoskr.
Oh, he's going Cloak again. He did it yesterday.
Now Cloak.
Yep.
So going into a prophetic Cloak, I gotta imagine,
Yep.
if that's the case?
He did it yesterday. I didn't like it. It worked, but my point is I looked at how much damage he took in a fight, and I was like, that's a Baba. Why did she not take damage? And then I saw he had a fully stacked Cloak. I'm like, oh, he did that very quickly. So it's gross, but hey, with how much CC he's been taking with Pegon pretty much focusing him out exclusively, he might need it this game. Last time he built it, he did not. His team was so far ahead and he never died, but this time, 0-2, not a bad look.
See if BMT can have any threat put on him from the Oni Warriors. Early game was not fun for BMT. Tried to go for an invade, ended up failing that one, then get collapsed on a little bit later on. So BMT trying to bring back some glory to his name in the mid. Does have a slight level lead over Pegon. It's 2 for CaptainTwig and about a level and a half for Variety. So the right side of the map has just been dominating in the farm. Even Jarcorrr, with all the solo time that he's gotten, we're on this left side of the map. He's been able to build up a slight lead, at least over his opposition. So leads almost entirely across the board for the Camelot Kings, not just in the experience, but also in the gold department. So where do the Kings go now? Pyromancer about to respawn. Gold Fury about a minute out from rejoining the fray as well. It seems the Camelot Kings are going to prioritize the right side of the map.
Yep, keep your eyes on Yark. Came all the way over from the right side. Netroid's going to fly in. Just heading for this Pyromancer, seeing if they can CC out Panitom, maybe force some ultimates before the fight, but it's going to be a true 5v5, and now SOT and Panitom are linked up. It's the first action we'll get to see from them.
Pyromancer pulled by the Kings. Pegon lurking around the side. Panitom unable to find the pull. Netroid's got to ult out instantly, and the Maui ultimate only pulls in Variety, not the ideal target for Awesome Jake. Pegon can't make his way into the fight, so CaptainTwig's going to bring the fight to him. Pegon gets out half HP, charges up Typhoon, but will still clip. CaptainTwig pulls it back in, but it's just not enough. Pegon, though, does get a little bit of help at the very end to take down Twig. Makes it a 1-for-1, but SOT so low, cannot juke out the firebolts of BigManTingz. That's a double kill for the mid laner of the Camelot Kings. And now a push down the Tier 1 tower. Pulled by Genetics. Finds Panitom, driving strike by Variety. That takes him down, and that's 3 now for the Kings.
Genetics does not miss the late beads. Panitom did not think that pull was coming, but remember, there are still objectives to be had. Are they going to run just to the Pyromancer? It looks like that is the safer call. Fire Giant's a little bit sketchy with Netroid being able to fly back in, so they're going to grab that one, reset, and I imagine go right back for Primal. I mean, a massive fight there. Tingz, he got as much damage as you can off using that home sweet home, and CaptainTwig realized, hey, Pegon tried to come from behind. He no longer has that immunity. I'm just going to blink on him, try and force something out. Pegon had to ult defensively. Still got huge damage off and was able to kill CaptainTwig in the process, but forcing that ult defensively saves your team so much. It looks like the Kings are not going to be able to make it to this Primal Fury, so the Oni Warriors can pick that one up for themselves, but there's a reason they can't make it there. It's because they are beelining for the Fire Giant. They've got plenty of burst, and they're going to make the pull.
Fire starts the Camelot Kings. No one in position on the side of the Oni Warriors.
Ward.
Pegon's the closest one there, but it seems that the Oni Warriors are just going to give this one up, even with the ward coverage inside the pit. Camelot Kings will grab the major neutral objective for themselves, all 5, with Fire Giant around their waist. And now a push over to the right side of the map. The tier 1 is already gone from earlier on. And now a push to tier 2. Late backs coming from the Oni Warriors to stop this push. Charlie, we could see maybe even a Phoenix attempt here by the Kings.
This is risky. Everyone is going to be back in time. It looks like it's a check to see, hey, are you guys going to retreat? Or are you going to go for that tier 2? They don't. So they're going to full-on retreat here. The Camelot Kings have plenty more gold to try and grab. They have plenty more towers, that sort of thing. And more specifically, power spikes are on the way. We've been talking about that gold lead. It's shown in the items. If you look at Jarcorrr and Netrioid, their builds are looking pretty similar, but soon that Deathbringer is going to come online, and that's going to be a huge difference. BigManTingz is pretty close to locking in a Soul Reaver. That's going to make sure that he's doing a ton more damage. But Variety is sticking around, and Pegon might want a solo kill opportunity.
So he's stunned out. A lot of damage goes through. Home sweet home through, and that will immune out the damage of the Typhoon, but BigMT won't stay in the home. Instead, will use the beads and turn back around.
Wow.
Now Pegon going to be on the run himself. Has the stealth for the increased mobility. But can Pegon even get out of here? Because there are 2 more members of the Kings hunting him down while it's 3 on the fight for Variety. Pegon goes back in, tries to find the 1v1 that he can, but it is not enough because Yark is there with the crits. And 4 to dive on top of Variety. Able to dash away from 1, but the pulls, the Typhoons, it's a little too much for even the tanky Hercules to deal with. The Camelot Kings will trade out 1 for 1, but add a tier 2 tower to boot.
Yeah, such a good play by BigManTingz there. I think Pegon wins that 1v1 100% of the time if he stays in home sweet home because you can't pop Aegis. But you cancel it immediately, use your relic, stall for your team, Pegon falls down. Unfortunately, Variety sticks around a little bit too long. Chased almost on the way over to CaptainTwig, but 1 more tier 2 tower falls, and you lose both relics on your mid laner. Camelot Kings are going to full on retreat though. They don't want to go for that last tier 2. Don't think they have enough time for it with this Fire Giant buff. And at this point, they want to spend up some of that gold. They've got power spikes aplenty. I imagine it's going to 1 more Fire Giant fight at the very least. But it's been looking very solid from the Camelot Kings. I think the entire team firing on all cylinders. I don't see a reason for Variety to be in right there. I think he was just saying, hey, you guys can't kill me, I'm Hercules. But if they send 4 over, you're probably going to die regardless.
Maybe 1 more item for Variety.
Yeah,
He lives that. Just 1 more item. I swear, guys. If I just had a finished Spirit Robe,
or just Blink.
I live that.
One of those, yeah.
Maybe if I had something else. But Variety goes down. Again, a 1 for 1 trade, but a tier 2 tower as well. The Camelot Kings continue to push their lead. Fire Giant buff about to wear off, though. This might be the final push, at least on one of the structures that we see. But 4 here to defend for the Oni Warriors, but they're not defending very much. This tower is falling swiftly. Netrioid joins the fray. Tier 2 tower stands, if only for another moment. Variety throws out the knockup, but doesn't find anything there. The Camelot Kings will fall back to the Pyro.
Yep, they have their opportunity. I think that Pegon has been trying to go for that flank. He's been trying to walk around, but Twig has been on point with saying, hey, because Panitom has to stay with SOT, we're not seeing that flank from Panitom, that usual jungle play where you walk the whole way around and show up behind. It's always Pegon now. So CaptainTwig, instead of having to watch out for a Susano, has been on the Morrigan duty, and so far has been able to spot him out. No real assassination attempts from the Morrigan just yet. And I think it's because of good ward coverage and just turning up those headsets to 11, making sure you can always hear that stealth noise. Goldfree will go down, though. Netroid's going to get that in pocket, but Fire Giant spawns real soon. And it looks like the Camelot Kings want to make sure they have perfect ward coverage and just showing bodies in the enemy jungle. Make sure they know exactly where everyone's at.
2 seconds left, but Variety grabs a push on Awesome Jake. It's a little bit of damage, both of them, but Variety will heal through. SOT is going to have to help out Awesome Jake, though. Knock him on to 2 by CaptainTwig, and just off the mark from Variety to find a pickup of his own. Fire Giant is back, and all 5 of the Kings surrounding the zone of the pit. The Oni Warriors a little slow to step up, especially just because they've been taking small, subtle bits of poke every time they have stepped up to the Kings so far.
Yep, and then the duo lane of the Camelot Kings just went back to base. They want to grab some wards. They've got runic bombs. They've got map state coverage. The only issue is they don't have a Phoenix down, so all of the Oni Warriors can be here. They have no reason not to. They don't have to go clear some waves. They don't have to watch any of their protections. They just can just sit back and say, hey, go ahead, go for the pull. We've got sustain. We've got immunities. We have plenty of time to just sit back. It's all on the Camelot Kings to either go for a bait or, I guess in this case, Variety or Genetics need to find a pull. And they've been going for them consistently. With that bracer movement speed, it's hard to hit these targets of the Oni Warriors.
Camelot Kings surrounding the pit once more. BMT is going to grab his red buff real quick before rejoining his team. Getting set back up for the fight. Only one on the map until just now to hit level 20 was BMT. CaptainTwig will join. Should be able, once he has enough gold, to go back and finish up that starter item of his own. The Kings have given up around the fire, have instead diverted their attention back to the tier 2 tower. Jarcorrr with a couple of autos should be able to take this one down, but
the bomb missed.
Still standing for just a moment. Unfortunate runic bomb placement doesn't drop the tower. They still got one more in hand for Genetics, but I don't think he wants to use it on a tower that's sitting with just a couple hundred HP left. So instead the Kings will buy some time. Variety will walk up and create some space, so that way the Kings can knock down the last structure.
Very nice. Now back to the Fire Giant. It wasn't even destroyed. They did not care. They're like, all right, we'll just defend this if we can. It just was not close enough. But now Fire Giant is going to be looked at once more. The same play. I mean, it's going to be the bait in. Oni Warriors walk up, see if you can find a pull. It's going to burn quickly, though, and Netrioid's flying to the left side of the map.
Netrioid now rejoining, but it's going to be a 5v4. Variety at the front line. Jake is here, has the ultimate. Pegon as well, and the transformation goes into Susano early, but the Kings will get the Fire Giant to pull on Genetics. He gets a knock on 2. A boulder slams through 3 to the back line, but not going to be a lot of damage just yet. Instead, now the Kings will surge forward in. Variety doesn't find the pickup that he was looking for. The Camelot Kings get the Fire Giant, and they push the Oni Warriors back.
And they're grouping up in mid, trying to go for a possible Phoenix Siege. But remember, a lot of ultimates used there. You still have Jarcorrr. He's ready to use that hunt whenever he needs to. And BigManTingz has the home sweet home. A lot of damage. Still could be had. Panitom's going to have to go back to base. He wanted to hit level 20 before this scrap, but looks like will not have the time, or at least the gold. He does have that upgrade, but he's going to come in handy.
Frenzy has been popped. Not a lot of damage to Phoenix yet. There goes the Runic Bomb to do quite a bit. Variety still lives. The Typhoon is just not enough damage. Variety lives with barely 100 HP to his name. And the Camelot Kings take the mid bird. They'll back out. Variety just living through at the tail end of that fight. And the Camelot Kings go right back to the Pyromancer that has just respawned.
They're on point with these objectives. It's been Fury over to the Oni Warriors more often than not, though, and it is available, but it looks like the Warriors are going to try and chase this out if possible. They got that sound cue. They know, hey, most of the team is over on right. Pegon's here trying to find CaptainTwig, and they're looking for someone in the jungle. Not going to find it, though. Camelot Kings are not going to be lazy backing this time around. Looks like just going to be a Primal Fury pull. And Mid Phoenix is not the worst. If you're the Oni Warriors, that could have gone better, but of course, it always could have gone worse. They could have gotten that kill onto Variety. Wouldn't have changed much as of now unless they decide to group up in the jungle and find a fight. It is just going to be grab the Primal and head on back to base. Get some of those power spikes. I think an upgraded starter would be huge for Pegon. SOT hasn't been even close to level 20 this game, and doesn't look like he's going to be getting there soon, because every buff that I've seen, the Oni Warriors have been force splitting. It does not give you that much XP when the whole team is squatted up around this little bit of XP that you can grab.
Camelot Kings will now regroup to the left side of the map. Fire Giant still in play for another 50 seconds on their buff. A split grouping. 2 to the mid of the already destroyed Phoenix. A few over to the right. CaptainTwig will now join the 3. Just off the mark by Genetics from the pull. Jake goes up and finds nobody. Splits the uprights. Variety finds one. SOT nearly taken out. Ultimate still available for the Aphrodite. And the Camelot Kings, only Genetics is the one taking poke so far.
They've got plenty of time, though. That mid wave is not quite where the Oni Warriors need to defend it. Panitom's going to have to head over. When he does, the Camelot Kings have a much better time trying to go for this bird. No runic bombs available, and once again, they step up.
Jake pulled in by Genetics, pushed back by Variety, stunned by Pegon. Not going to find the value they were looking for. The boulder rains to the pack line. And Panitom just makes it out because of the help of awesome Jake. Variety goes in, misses the pull, but the left side Phoenix will fall. And Charlie, that's going to make it much more difficult for the Oni Warriors now on this next fire.
But it looks like they want to fight. I think Panitom's coming in. Netrioid was able to fly. What can they find in the meantime? There's no Fire Giant buff to deal with. And if the Oni Warriors want to try and fight at this FG, they need to find a pick. They need to stall this out. They're going to have to send someone back to clear one wave, maybe 2 waves of fire minions if they start grouping up. And CaptainTwig's a little far up here.
Twig will be fine for now. Taking a peek into at least the builds for these 2 mages. Slightly different pathings for both them. BigManTingz obviously getting a little bit of a defense into his kit. We mentioned earlier, Prophetic Cloak has been fully stacked up. But it's Doomorb and a lot of pen on the side of CaptainTwig, and then that Soul Gem for the bonus proc. Meanwhile, with BigManTingz, just a lot of raw power coming from his build instead.
Yeah, and you can see the Oni Warriors know they have very little time to find a fight here, and the Camelot Kings know they've got all the time in the world. Wait for those minions to push. We're not going to walk around a corner. Maybe Variety is, though. I guess I lied about that one. He knows exactly someone's here. Can they find genetics? No. And now that the Camelot Kings know this plays here, they have no reason to step up until someone has to back for minions.
Camelot Kings. We've heard it before from Twig. Maybe not the most ideal playstyle to watch for the fans, but it's forcing potential errors like this. The Afro ult is already down, but so is BigManTingz. No, the Aegis buys him enough time, and the ult from Jake is just off the mark. BigManTingz will live through the fight. Genetics at half, and Panitom on the run. Remember, no Afro ult available for this next potential fight. The Oni Warriors nearly find their pick, but they come up empty-handed.
Yeah, they're going to have to go back, and now the Camelot Kings, they have that regen. They've got the sustain from genetics. They are able to make their pull if need be, but there's plenty of waves on the Titan, and Variety, he's standing up against 4. He takes a lot of damage.
He does. Has a little bit of sustain between him and genetics. That gives the Warriors a little bit of confidence to move up. Jingwei, or I should say Netrioid on the Jingwei, at least deals with the mid lane minions that have pushed through. If Phoenix's respawn, that gives them a little bit of ease of mind, at least for the mid lane. But that left side Phoenix is still down, and fire minions creeping up at what was the tier 2 tower. Benefit of the Oni Warriors now being able to pick up one of the Pyromancer runic bombs. What can they get with this defense they've had now? They stalled the Kings out. Maybe they can find a huge pick onto CaptainTwig. That's a great start now for the Oni Warriors. But it did cost them quite a bit to get in there again, and their Afro ult's expended.
Yeah, I mean, this time, Susano and Afro is online. The Camelot Kings, unfortunately, have not ended this game in time. They're going to have to deal with that whenever they want. Panitom gets to the back line and just deletes someone. Variety does not get deleted. He's got plenty of HP. Good ult. He's going to get the ult again.
Root by genetics, and a jump in by Jake. The Typhoons are massive. Yark barely lives through, gets his shield back up. BigManTingz fights. Triple pull by Jake. Sets up the damage for Netrioid. That's a double for the carry of the Oni Warriors. Genetics on the run. Found a massive start to that team fight, but it has been all down since then as a Netrioid triple kill closes out the fight.
And now they're going to be able to push up mid lane. It looks like that's the call here. They don't want to go for a Fire Giant. It's not worth it if they can't get with Panitom and Pegon. They're going to go for a mid tower, but good damage from BigManTingz might be enough to tell them probably smarter to go back for that Fire Giant. Someone's going to have to defend left, but they have plenty of time to play this one slowly. It's just Tingz, but CaptainTwig, he spawned in, and it looks like he's heading right for that Fire Giant.
Twig is back. Does have ult and a blink. He needs to get in there fast to this fight. Hasn't been able to finish out the build just yet. The Oni Warriors, Netrioid and SOT at least, starting up the Fire Giant. Crits are up for Net. So they'll be able to burn through this. Maybe not as fast as they were hoping for, as SOT takes up the fire. This objective is not going swiftly, and this is given so much time for BMT and CaptainTwig to show up. BigManTingz up at the home sweet home. Netrioid goes in on top of CaptainTwig, who finds the ultimate, but it's immuned out by Sot. But now Sot and Netrioid don't have that immunity. Variety has rejoined the fight from the grave, and SOT will instead be traded out a kill for BigManTingz, and the Kings hold back.
And that left side Phoenix is going down. I don't think anyone can make it. Beautiful stop by Variety to make sure that left side bird goes down. And once again, Fire Giant being looked at. It doesn't look like Panitom could even make it in time. It's up to Awesome Jake. The stall is good. Who's got the ultimate? Panitom blinks in.
Goes in, throws out the Typhoon, but it's too late. The Kings got the fire. Genetics finds 3 with the ult, and Pegon dashes as far as his little legs can take him, but it's not very far. Jarcorrr knocks him down. Variety shoves Jake against the wall and slows him down for the rest of the team to charge in, but there's just not enough damage. Jake able to get over the wall just in time, but Netrioid does not have the same luxury. It's a double for Yark, and the Kings push forward.
It's just Panitom and Jake trying to keep this Titan alive. You got SOT and 8, but plenty of damage on the side of the Kings. They should have an easy opportunity here for the end.
No ults for either still alive. The Camelot Kings, too much damage under the throne room. They'll take game number 1 over the Oni Warriors. Despite it looking a little dicey there towards the mid-late game, the Camelot Kings cleaned it up for game 1.
And Afro never was able to upgrade that starter, was never able to get to late game where that comp can actually flourish. We saw a few times where the kiss came in handy. Panitom gets to the backline, just deletes someone or pulls a relic, but I think the Camelot Kings played the early game exactly how you have to. They sent an early gank, pre-level 2 onto SOT, make sure that Afro doesn't get off to a good start, and then after that, controlled every single objective in the game. They said, hey, Pyro, oh, it's time for Fury, okay, we're going to do that. Up until late game when they said, you guys can have Fury, we're going to get Fire Giant, that's a little bit more important. And played the team fights exquisitely. Just a few picks, besides that, pretty clean.
I mean, as you say, it all starts over in the Soul lane. CaptainTwig, less than 40 seconds into the game, makes a rotation towards Solo, gets that first blood, and it's very quiet for the Soul lane for a long time. Started seeing signs of life, though, there kind of near the end once this Aphrodite got a little bit of protections online, allowed Panitom to really get to the back line, but unfortunately, still not quite enough there, at least for this team to make it through. The Camelot Kings able to hold out, able to take game number 1 to start out this best of 5. Can they keep this momentum rolling? We'll find out in game 2 right after this.
Welcome back, everyone. A couple of bumps in the road, but the Kings close out their first game in a 1-0 fashion score. It's Myth. Of course, if you want to look as clean as the Kings do and as clean as the Warriors do, at least as fresh as they look, you can always head over to shop.highresstudios.com/SPL, shop.smiteproleague.com, or you can just go to smiteproleague.com and click on the merch tab. It'll take you over to this beautiful merch brought to you by our friends over at Skulls, who have made some fantastic things. Even the shirt that Myth is wearing right now
is
a Skulls product. It's got their logo on the right sleeve, my guy.
Huh.
And so you can pick up a jersey, you can pick up a hoodie, you can rep your favorite teams in the best way possible. Find them right now.
It's kind of comfy.
It actually is one of my
good
favorite shirts. I was wearing it. It's the one I was wearing yesterday under my sweater, so it didn't maybe show off the Pro League part. There's also a huge logo on the back, but it is
there?
Super. Have you not?
Give
us a little spin.
I'm on a wire.
See?
Oh,
There's a big
hey!
old logo on the back. See?
Yeah. Okay.
Very comfortable shirts, great jerseys, great hoodies. So make sure that you go over to shop.highresstudios.com/SPL or any of those other things that I had mentioned. And make sure you pick up some of yours now. Rep your favorite teams throughout the year. This is a good time to maybe get the feel out there for who you're rooting for. I know Mifflin likes his shirt. How'd you like game number 1? That one was interesting. Again, the draft going into it, we were like, okay, well, they let through the Afro. What are we going to see? I think Kabam had tweeted it, I believe, was the lucky SOT. He gets 2 Susanos. A lot of things that they could really work with. But it only gave them a few things in the grand scheme, right? The Kings still played like the Kings.
Yeah, and it was a classic Kings victory in that they fall down 3 kills in the early game to the double Susano Aphrodite cringe composition, I suppose. And I thought to myself, all right, GG, Oni Warriors, congratulations, you've taken down the Kings in game 1. I went and I refilled my water bottle, I checked my email, I sent out a couple emails, and I looked up, and it was 3-3, and the gold lead was 5,000 in favor of the Camelot Kings, and I was completely flabbergasted after that. Just standard, control the objectives, pick your fights properly, always after a pick, move into an objective, go to the Gold Fury, go to the Pyromancer, take out a tower, and that's generally how the Camelot Kings transition themselves into that mid to late game. I love the team fight as well. It just felt like so often it was genetics starting things off, and it was the same way every time, just a raw pull. Through a wall while staring them down, 360ing, didn't matter. Genetics found it. And whoever he did land that pull on, the chain CC combo was there immediately behind it. Even in this one, Genetics walks up, root, combo, you're stuck in the air, you're not able to land. You're in the grayscale before you're allowed to even input another button. I would have liked to see a little bit more emphasis from the Oni Warriors to get their Aphrodite involved. The reason we had talked about it on the original Death segment in P's and B's was Aphrodite support, Aphrodite mid. It's because you want that Afro in every facet of the game. The best fight in the entire game for the Oni Warriors was that early game initiation on the right-hand side of the map.
Yeah.
Aphrodite was there. Goes to show that she's a major part, major win condition for that composition. But in the solo lane, SOT can only do so much with this Afro. He can only be involved in so much. And with the game spiraling out of control as quickly as it did, he wasn't really allowed to get involved all that much.
Especially, and there were even times, later on where their goal on the Kings was like, cool, hey, wait, we can kill the Afro, cool, kill Afro, we don't care about the rest of them. Once Thought was gone, it's like, all right, let's take the fight. Like, we're set, we're golden, we can do this, and a couple of moments like that, specifically in the FG pit, maybe crumble what the Warriors had to offer. Got to give some shout-outs, though. Jake looked really good on the Maui. Maybe could have looked better on the Afro, but still able to find some really good pulls. And really good setup for his team in a lot of those fights. We'll have to find out if the Kings even bother changing anything. They're going to be second pick for the second time. The Warriors definitely have something different on their mind. Immediately ban the Baba Yaga, which was the Terra last time around. So something's going to get through here. The question is just going to be, what do they value the most? Where are they going to put it? They're going to ban the Afro. They don't think that they are going to play it. Maybe Jake either has it and doesn't want it, or doesn't know that it's going to be his best for them, depending on how the Kings play, so they ban that out instead of picking it themselves. With Terra available, I mean, Jake's got a decent Terra in his pocket. Maybe could be a first pick there, but it would be devastating if the Kings pick it as well.
Banning Aphrodite in first 3 from the first pick position gives me 2 pertinent pieces of information.
2.
Number 1, Aphrodite's really good and you know it's going to get first picked if left available.
Yep.
If you leave it up after your first selection. Number 2, Oni Warriors don't have one, or if they do have one, they don't like how it fits into the composition. They don't like how it fits into the play style, so they give it over to SOT. Now, having banned it out from first pick, they say, well, if the Kings get it, it's probably GG. So we're just going to go ahead and get rid of it ourselves. That does leave an opening now for the Camelot Kings to, I suppose, just go for another dedicated target ban here. Generally, it's that second pick slot that would have to leave that Aphrodite in a ban there. So now the Kings essentially giving over one free one. I'm surprised it's the Baba Yaga ban, though. Generally, if it's a mage ban in first 3, it's like Merlin. You're really concerned about the base defense and siege potential of that pick. I feel like Baba Yaga operates similarly to a Merlin in situations like that. Instead, just stop feeding the hot hand, I suppose, with BMT having a phenomenal performance in the previous match. Just want to make sure he's just playing something different.
The Cernunnos ban, again, someone who has been around, actually picked up one of the, maybe just straight up the most so far this week. Banned a few times, but a lot of teams have been willing to let him through. Sometimes maybe dealing with the Ishtar instead. Current banned out. Hebo first pick catches me by surprise, Mifflin. I will say I'm expecting maybe an Ishtar sometime soon for the Kings, but Hebo went from not being seen too much, what he's like played maybe once, twice yesterday, to suddenly showing up quite a few times today and doing well.
Yeah, Hebo jungle was pretty popular towards the tail end of Season 9. Now in Season 10, you can go Bumbas or Eye of the Jungle straight into a Doom Orb or a Spear of Desolation. So you've got additional percent pen from the Doom Orb as well as additional movement speed, Desolation. Just getting a whole lot more CDR on it means that every time you get involved in a fight, you're getting 3 seconds off of at least one of your cooldowns, or all your non-ultimate cooldowns, 6 seconds off your ultimate cooldowns. So I think Hebo just benefiting a lot from some of the changes to itemization here in Season 10 and has remained at the top of that priority list. It is curious to see it this high up, though, in the draft, because Hebo is not immune to bad matchups. There are a couple of picks historically that have been very strong in a Hebo. Anybody that spawns a structure, anyone that can put a wall up, makes it very difficult to maneuver on the map. Atlas of the Yellow River, one of his best abilities. Yep. Yeah, it doesn't work if there's a wall in front of it, right? You can dance on...
you can go like real fast into the wall.
Yeah, real fast into the wall or scoot side to side a bit, but you're not going to make it very far. Crushing Wave, repositioning yourself in a team fight as well as dealing your damage. Good luck. If there's a wall anywhere on the map, it's very telegraphed. And Genetics certainly a player that is capable of reacting to the sound effect of Hebo going to that ultimate and blocking it out. Instead, though, Terra locked in for Genetics. He's been a very vocal defender of Terra on Twitter, on Twitch. Anywhere you can hear his voice, he'll let you know. Terra's in a very good spot right now. And it's time for him to put up a shut-up. I mean, I'm a fan of Terra as well. Now has additional protections in the Monolith, 30 of both, physical and magical, so long as you're playing with them there.
Feels so good, right?
Feels incredibly good. Makes everybody tanky while you're simultaneously healing them. But also the ultimate, giving over 5% additional damage mitigation. Previously it was 5%, now it's up to 10. Meaning that if you're playing in both the Monolith and the ultimate, I don't care who you are, you're just a tank now.
Yeah, I think it really does open up the strengths of what I guess a Terra can bring. It's very different style of, well, not even a different style of gameplay. It's the same style of play. You're just bringing different things to the table to make people last as long as they can. Pick it up. You know, there's a few items that can maybe boost as well, right? Get hit with the heal. You're already standing. You've already got some prots. Then all of a sudden maybe you're getting 15 more prots of each. Could be, again, very strong with some itemization. We'll see. I mean, like you said, Genetics, I think on stream, on Twitter, everywhere, as you had mentioned, has been a big fan of this. Hercules, been a big pick this week. And those two from the Kings were answered on the Warriors by an Izanami and a Horus. So if you were looking for clear, they're going to be bringing it to the table, trying to match what the Ishtar has for the Kings. Bans, Odin, Bakasura from the Kings, the Naja and the Hunbats, very targeted towards the jungle, towards Twig himself from the Warriors. And I'm, thinking about it, this is where I think Baba Yaga was last time. Typically, they save the jungle for a little bit later. Do you have any mage in mind that you like with the three the Kings have?
Merlin, plug and play,
he's
just every single time. It's BigManTingz, so Tiamat comes to mind as well. Yeah. If he wants to, we've seen the Ra a few times from BMT. Now Ra's ultimate doing additional percentage damage means that snipe is just a little bit stronger, but I think Merlin a bit higher up on that priority list, and seems the Kings tend to agree. Just really difficult to siege into this god, really difficult to defend against the siege from this god. Just in these tighter spaces, when the game simplifies, in the small space around a Phoenix or around a tier 2 tower, the arcane stance from Merlin, the ice stance being those constant sources of ticking damage, just make it very difficult to maneuver the fight, to utilize your blink, or even just survive if it's the late game. Merlin's got that kind of damage output just on his own, so fits this draft very well, I think, for the Camelot Kings. On the side of the Oni Warriors, though, with the Hebo already locked in, I was assuming that would go into the jungle. Seems the Camelot Kings hedged their bets a bit with that Bakasura ban.
Yeah.
Maybe taking notice of what Panitom was able to do a little bit earlier on in the weekend, so take that one off the table. And it's not as if Pegon is incapable of playing the Hebo. In fact, has done so very recently. Hades locked in. I thought it was Horus solo. I didn't think it was going to be Awesome Jake taking it, but instead, I think that does give us a bit more of an idea of where things are going. Hebo towards mid, Hades in the solo lane, Horus support, and Susano will hold it down in the jungle. On the other side, CaptainTwig has held on to his own pick for as long as possible. And with the composition as it is with just the 4 stack of the Camelot Kings, Twig's got pick of the field. This composition is not lacking for anything. You've got your initiation, you've got your displacement, you've got your consistent damage. So what does Twig need to do? He needs to get his team to the late game where they can do all those things I just listed. Ratatoskr with his global presence alleviates pressure in every single lane simply by existing. If he's on the left side of the map and the mid laner spots him out, Pegon has to communicate, hey, duo lane back up. Twig could be there in literally 2 seconds flat thanks to that global presence. Same for the solo lane as well. And has a pretty alright matchup into that Hebo, especially throughout the early. If Rat's able to catch Hebo early on, it'd make it very difficult for him to farm.
And one thing, I mean, we've seen Rat, I think yesterday from Twig looked really good. Earlier today, Lasra piloting it. Very, very impactful pick. And we've seen how devastating it can be in the right hands. You've already got a lot of good plays, good gods, I should say, around him. And I start thinking of, okay, well, Rat, and then given the mitigations and prots from like a Terra, all of a sudden he's able to get to the back line, and he doesn't have to worry about getting out. He's just going to be tanky and be able to melt through you. You know, Hades, Horus, we've seen them as frontliners a lot in the last year. Not usually together, but individually. Start off a little squishier, end up just as tanky, or at least with healing, with damage, things like that. Do you think that those two as a frontline come together well enough to match what like a Terra and a Hercules can put out?
Well, as far as tankiness is concerned, absolutely not. Especially considering SOT has gone towards just these full damage builds with his Hades. He's more so just a secondary assassin. I wouldn't even go as far as to say he's a dedicated part of that front line. He's going to be leading the charge in a lot of these fights, but if the damage return is there, he won't last very long. Pillars of Agony, really the only thing keeping him survivable in a lot of these engagements, especially considering some of the healing changes he had received in 10-3. So the Oni Warriors want the fight to start on their terms, and the fight needs to go well off rip. They need to find something off initiation. If the fight is extended whatsoever, all of a sudden the Camelot Kings are allowed to regroup. They can maybe resustain a bit with that Terra and start dealing with these pieces of the Oni Warriors piecemeal, one at a time. So as far as frontline is concerned, heavily favor the Kings. If it's burst potential, gank potential, or even pick potential, I'm leaning a little bit more to the Warriors.
Well, maybe they're going to be able to find something like that. That's what they were looking for, I think, early last game. But not all the pieces fell where they needed them to. You know, you had mentioned it, Aphrodite maybe not in the fights as much as they would have liked. Some of the others kind of struggling without that protection and out that tankiness. Kings bringing in Terra, the Hercules, the Merlin. They've got, for lack of a better term, a very Kings composition right here. And so I am starting to think that they have some strengths. What we saw, that even with some of the best strengths, the Warriors seem to have them dialed in. And again, kind of harkens back to what they had said, which is like Scrim's not going well against the Warriors. You got 5 mechanical beasts over there. You're feeling their way. If this team falls behind, though, which is something I think has to be taken into consideration, does it fight well from behind? Does it have to get ahead?
I think both of these comps have got win conditions from behind.
Yeah.
I would say that the Oni Warriors, though, in particular, play better from behind with this draft. If the Kings fall behind, it's really hard to deal with that burst.
Well, I guess we'll find out. Can the Warriors tie it up, or will the Kings take us to 3 with a 2-0 lead? We'll find out with J-Mac and Trelly.
We'll see if the scrappy nature of the Oni Warriors can come back and help them up against the Camelot Kings here in game number 2, because they're going to need to. Otherwise, they're going to fall down 2-0 and be on elimination point for the remainder of their set in this best of 5. It's J-Mac, Charlie, and Doug back for the second game now. And earlier, or I should say yesterday, we saw this Horus pop through for the Oni Warriors, though it went to SOT over in the solo lane. Now seeing it piloted for Awesome Jake over in the dual lane this time around. I kind of feel about the nature of the composition for the Oni Warriors for kind of these first few minutes of the game, Charlie.
I mean, they've got plenty of pressure. You've got the Iza. Netrioid should be getting some great clear off, especially when you have to fear the stuns that Awesome Jake can provide. I think that the Camelot Kings are probably going to have to watch out. With Terra and Ishtar, I think Terra becomes a lot stronger at level 3 when she gets access to her whole kit, whereas Ishtar just has to have that level 1 and you have plenty of clear. But Awesome Jake, now that he's level 2, this is what I'm talking about. You just walk in, you get lots of damage off, you sort of force the Camelot Kings back, and because of that, the Oni Warriors are going to have some good pressure over in duo lane. That's always a great start.
I want to talk about a good start. SOT must have found Variety in the middle of a wave or something, because Variety down to under 200 HP, having to use those potions to heal back up now. He'll be fine, at least for the time being, but definitely not the greatest start that you want, especially up against a lane bully such as Hades, a god that's so easy to be able to clear out these waves once a couple abilities are online. Back over to the opposite side of the map, Jake and Netrioid really able to keep up the pressure, and look at the beads burned by SOT there. On that side, my goodness, Variety's still slamming those, but the bead's there, so SOT doesn't go down.
Yeah, if he starts teleport, definitely dead. Variety found the pull in the tower, and SOT had to respect that. Now, you fear the gank from CaptainTwig. This is a Blink Ratatoskr that is about to have a full Acorn pretty soon. The way he started, doesn't really care about any sort of like starter item. Has the Eye of the Jungle, of course, but actually, it looks like Panitom will be the first one to get active on a BMT. No mana, no fight back. Not going to pull a relic either. Use the blink for nothing, but I'm expecting some sparks to fly from this Ratatoskr, one of the better early game junglers in the game, and does so much damage, especially with that blink.
CaptainTwig was debating to get aggressive against Pegon, but then realized that, well, now Panitom has disappeared off the map. So decides to not dash forward this time around. Maybe in the 1v1 up against Panitom, feels a bit more comfortable. Dual lane, there was a little bit of a skirmish. At least around the shield buff, it doesn't seem that either team were willing to make the drop for it. Says Awesome Jake still playing up. Heavy front line on this Horus, trying to get those stuns out, get that damage started up for him and Netrioid, because they have just kept Genex and Yark at this tier 1 tower the entire time so far.
I did like the opportunity to try and find some kills, but it looks like some good damage over on the left side over to Yark. I think that there's going to be fighting on solo, though. That's where it should be. Panitom and CaptainTwig both have the opportunity to get aggressive. Variety's getting real low.
Does get the pull back, but SOT lacking the damage. Stunned by CaptainTwig. Needs a little bit more. The dash gets silenced out. SOT saves his own life this time around. And CaptainTwig and Variety will have to sit back and watch as their prey has now gotten away, and Panitom will instead try and reap the rewards of this fight. Going for a blue buff invade. No chance for CaptainTwig to save that one.
Yeah, Variety teleported in, but was not there on time. So close, beautiful fear, just to make sure that dash didn't connect. And the dart would have been enough, especially with an auto attack. SOT gets to live to see another day and gets an extra blue buff. Not the XP for it, of course, that goes over to Panitom, but Variety not being able to get it and using the teleport and not having Golden Blade means this Hercules is not going to be able to spam abilities on the wave. It's really two combos, and you're kind of sitting there going, ooh, I wish I got the totem. You know, you need that MP5. So that will start to add up. Completely day and night difference, though, for Panitom. He is not sitting back. He is not losing pressure over in solo. He's actually finding that pressure. He wants to look for those early ganks. Same build, but you don't have an Afro anymore. You have a Hades, who is one of those lane bullies, who gives you access to try and W key and find those early rotations. Looks like a good look for Panitom this time around.
Also, something that I noticed the set yesterday that we had with the Hades. Not going for the traditional Hades start that we had seen all throughout Season 9, where they were going to early lifesteal, getting things like Bancross or Typhons, even maybe try and go for 1, if not 2 stacking items. Instead, it's towards a Doom Orb. Early on, we saw this yesterday. I believe it's Doom Orb into Ratatoskr.
Well, that's a stacking
for our
item.
first couple items. Okay.
It stacks. You should have chose different words.
permanent stacking
There you
item.
go.
There we go.
And that is different, and that's true. I think that just values the movement speed. There is good damage, and the Book of Thoth nerfs have scared a lot of people away. BigManTingz still picks it up on things like Baba Yaga, but when you're up against someone like Hercules, you have that opportunity to go Doom Orb and try and use that movement speed for some clutch rotation, things of that nature. But so far, it's been a lot of attempted fights and a lot of this. Panitom and Twig coming over to right lane, trying to see, hey, you gonna use your escape, you gonna use your ultimate. But it looks like Variety's not falling for it just yet. And here comes Twig with the wraparound. He's not gonna find anything though, stepped over a ward, and SOT's not gonna fall for this one either.
SOT staying very far back to try and land some autos, but
And he started
doesn't
dancing.
give an opportunity over for CaptainTwig to dash into the lane. So instead, CaptainTwig will take away one of the roaming Harpies as a consolation prize for his rotation to the right side of the map. We'll work towards the blue buff as well to try and secure this one for Variety. Remember the last one, stolen away by Panitom. After the divided 2v2, Panitom shows up, finds the pull on Variety, and steals the blue buff again. Panitom, the blue buff bandit for the Oni Warriors.
That one hurts, because the first one, you know, you get poked out, you teleport in, you're a little bit late to the party. But that one, you're just like, maybe we should have held our burst a little bit better. Maybe we should have, you know, I could have zoned him out. Still, though, Variety does get the Golden Blade, which helps out so much when trying to actually clear that wave, especially when your mana is such a precious resource. You don't have the totem control, you don't have a blue buff, you don't have mana pots. Actually, Variety does make the change out when he backs. He does pick up a mana pot, so that's going to help him out. Maybe he gets one extra driving strike and doesn't have to hold on to all of his abilities. They're just rationing that mana. But not real fighting. It was a little bit of a scrap, but no kills landed just yet 6 minutes in. Definitely a slower pace being set by the Oni Warriors this time around.
Bit of maybe an odd start by Awesome Jake for itemization. Typically we see their Gauntlet of Thieves, Prophetic Cloak, maybe in a Lotus Sickle kind of as a first item for these supports, but start with the Magi's Cloak instead. Pegon in danger in the mid lane, finds about half of CaptainTwig's HP, level 9 versus level 6 in that matchup, but Pegon misses his combo after. Will have to back away from BMT. But back on to Jake, very interesting Magi's first item.
Yeah, it looks like he was fearing some of the CC, wants to be able to get aggressive and not really worry about getting locked down. Horus doesn't yell to me one of those gods that really needs it because of how much mobility the character has, but you can play a lot more free with that extra level of CC immunity. CaptainTwig does not think they can kill SOT, especially with that ultimate still available, and actually Variety's going to take a ton of damage. Has to teleport though, so should be able to back up and try and reset later on. I lied.
Stops the back.
He got him.
He tagged him.
That one hurts.
Look, you got to know that when you're up against SOT or if you're playing against players like Variety as well, you can't be backing next to or in front of the tower. You got to be all the way to the depths of it. Jarcorrr used his ultimate to save his life against Netrioid. That gets the beats on the Izanami and forces Jake away as well. Genetics even expending his ultimate, but now he may have stepped a little too far forward. Does get the first dash. We use the Monolith to avoid the knockup after. The slows are just too much. And it'll be a kill now for the Oni Warriors. A first blood attempted by CaptainTwig, but the cavalry has arrived. The Oni Warriors, 4 strong, will lock down CaptainTwig and make it 2 for the Warriors.
You gotta think CaptainTwig thought about that one a little bit longer and would think, okay, maybe I shouldn't go in. I mean, he was up in the air. He saw some low health targets. He jumped over Pegon and Panitom. He knew they were there and thought, hey, maybe I can get this kill and get out. Not the case. And now you're just handing over a kill to the Hebo, the level 10. That's pretty scary. Unfortunate plays there, and actually great shot by Netrioid. I thought was able to run away and just decide to retreat in that regard, but plenty of damage. Was able to hit that fadeaway shot to guarantee kill opportunity. Variety's going to take some damage here as well, but looks like the beads. That's enough damage?
What? What?
Variety had ult. He just was like, I'm going to eat this. I'm fine. And I'm going to be honest, I thought he could eat it too. Sod is doing way more than you would be
Wow.
doing. That Doom Orb is hitting a little different.
What's the power on a Doom Orb again? What's it like, 145?
140, yeah,
like 145 without minions?
Yeah, he's 145.
And you get, wow, you get 4 power per stack after. Insane what SOT has pulled out, and it's just starting to domino effect across the map. Jake finds another kill. CaptainTwig comes over. Does he have the damage to take down SOT?
One more fear and he's
Will
dead.
be able to get away. CaptainTwig blinks over, misses the dash though, but not enough damage from SOT. Maybe Panitom can close this one out. The pull is enough damage. And it's now a 5-0 Oni Warrior up over the Camelot Kings. SOT laughing all the while. Will heal back up on the blue. And the rest of this 1-0-1 that he's got.
Yeah, now I would say the Camelot Kings are playing a bit on tilt. They are just sort of going in. Domino effect, as you said, looking for opportunities to find kills. Variety, once again.
What is going on?
Getting baited. What?
Oh, whoa, hold on now.
Sick pull. What's that do? Nothing.
Oh,
Give another
no.
kill to Hebo. And now Genetics is going to die? Wait, Jarcorr's actually fighting back here.
Oh, Netrioid, Jake, they're both out. Okay, so we've gone from absolutely nothing is going on to like 3 minutes of nonstop 1v1s, 2v2s, dives from CaptainTwig and Variety.
This is sketchy.
But unfortunately for the Camelot Kings, it's all come up Oni Warriors. A start of the Fury, but nowhere near enough damage. Pegon is level 12, but Pegon's doing a lot back through. Crush Wave misses this time around. CaptainTwig goes up to the sky. Pegon gets pulled back in. Will CaptainTwig go for the greedy kill? No, the blink past him. Pegon lives for only a moment. Does go down. The first kill for the Kings, but it's 8 on the board for the Oni Warriors. Jake and Netrioid crash in. Jarcorrr trying to run away. The slow connects, but Genetics is here. Attacks the stone wall. Variety has found the turnaround solo, but it's traded out by Sun into the tower.
Look at him laughing.
Charlie, what is happening this game?
I mean, if I'm Variety, that's worth, of course. You're getting the revenge. You're getting the wave clear at the very least. You're catching up, but it's gotta hurt a little bit, right? You know,
it's been 4 minutes of just fighting.
Yep. It has been an absolute brawl, and that's all we wanted to see. It was silence, and then the brawl began. Pegon makes a great play, blinks the ult. Unfortunately, CaptainTwig had just enough damage to find that kill onto the Hebo. But it has been all Oni Warriors for a bit now. So the Camelot Kings have been trying to make these objective-based plays. We've seen them go for pulls. It looks like Pegon is not going to step up, so it should be a free Pyromancer. And the Gold Fury still stands tall, so the Camelot Kings are still objective-focused. On tilt during fights, yes, but they're not letting this Gold Fury go down. They're not letting that Pyromancer go down. It's just going to be a while before Yark can really clear this wave with no fear of dying because that tower dropped so early on. I mean, Ishtar can clear the wave great, but not as much as Iza. He has little to no pressure over on the left side of the map.
I'm going to talk about, you know, the old phrase, the eye before the storm, but it seems that last game was the eye. Now we are in the storm of the Oni Warriors. Gold Fury started up and taken down with no contest by the Camelot Kings. And that will be a continued push for the Oni Warriors. Nearly 5,000 gold up over the Kings, just 12.5 minutes. Not a position we are used to seeing the Kings in, is down this far in gold. We've seen deficits of the Kings down 1, 2K moving into this point, maybe even 3,000. 5K usually only if it's 20 minutes, and we always see a push back, but so far the Warriors are hardly giving them any room to breathe. Blink for blink from Twig and Sot, and a boulder for good measure by Variety, just to get some additional wave clear out there, but the Kings are slowly starting to fall behind.
Looks like that was I mean, BigManTingz was coming over too. You need help when trying to kill a Hades that's this far ahead with this much damage. I mean, if you're eating that Pillar of Agony, SOT's probably trading a kill. And at this point, I don't even know if they had the damage. CaptainTwig goes for the upgraded Acorn right into Bloodforge. Not going to be doing that much early on. Definitely helps if you can get continuous kills. And of course, the buffs to Bloodforge make it a little bit more valuable this early on. But certainly not enough to just eat the full entirety of a Hades ult and try and kill him before then. You gotta fear Pegon. SOT actually makes the rotation over to left, maybe trying to get aggressive towards this mid tower. There's no objectives up. I would say Sot's just bored. The tower's gone, he's got nothing else to do. He's like, hey, I'm gonna go bully people and see how much damage I can find.
Well, he's found a camp, surrounded by 3. Should be a dead Hades with the help of BMT rotating over. Maybe not even necessary for the Merlin. That gives a little bit of room to breathe for the Camelot Kings. Stun on Genetics. Silence hits as well. A Typhoon. Not going to clip Genetics. It'll only hit Yark this time around. That's going to force Genetics back to base at the very least. Quarter HP on the Terra. Seems he's not willing to go back just yet. Still some camps on the map. To be able to farm up a 4,300 gold lead for the Oni Warriors after all this skirmishing. It was so loud, such a brutal brawl we had going on just a couple minutes ago, and Now we calm back down here about the 14-minute mark.
Yeah, once the Pyromancer respawns, I'm thinking we'll see more scrapping on the right side. Just trying to catch up has been the name of the game. I mean, at the very least, Variety's sitting level 14, right there with Sot. Panitom and Twig are even in XP, and BigManTingz has been just oozing farm. And this man just runs to everything. I think probably taking a bit of Twig's in the process, but sits at level 16, top XP in the game. That is going to be a big game changer. I mean, this Merlin is online damage-wise, mirroring builds with Pegon, and Pegon is real far up.
Does get stunned out by Genetics, bailed out by Jake, at least for the time being, but that opened the door for Netrioid to take out the tier 1 tower in mid. Now a regrouping of the Warriors around the Pyro pit, but no Pyromancer there. It'll just be a recall for the Oni Warriors. What will the Camelot Kings do with this time given? Jarcorr's been left alone in left lane for a little while. He's not going to go for the tower push. Instead, we'll just send a wave of minions in, head back to base, and I imagine maybe try and finish up this item, but still not quite enough gold. Tier 1 item down, or a tier 3 item down compared to Netrioid on the opposite end.
Yeah, I mean, Balanced Blade, you're up against double crit. I already said there's no way you're fighting, and that you can just double that. You don't want to fight up against this Iza pretty much ever. Double crit means that everyone on the side of the Camelot Kings is going to be taking a ton of damage. I mean, even Variety only has a tier 2 Fizz defense item. That's not enough to deal with how much farm has been funneled into the left side of the map here for the Oni Warriors. So I imagine they should be looking to pull these objectives first, and that is the call. Pyromancer's up, Oni Warriors make their rotation over. Net's not here, but with Pegon, they have plenty of bursts. Only Genetic can get close, and he doesn't have much.
Pyromancer to the Oni Warriors. An attempt by the Camelot Kings, but just too good a zoning coming from Jake and from Sot to make sure that that one does go down. The Hunters for both squads will continue to stack up over in the dual lane for the time being, but Fury is back up. The Vision is in control of the Kings, so they'll know that the Warriors have started this up. But can they even do anything about it? Genetics standing by. We've seen quite a few Terra steals over the last couple competitive splits, but not going to see one this time around. Genetics too far away. Oni Warriors get the Fury, and maybe even Genetics as well. Caught inside the Pillar of Agony and splashed away by Pegon. 10 kills for the Oni Warriors, plus an extra Fury to boot.
They should be able to grab a tier 1 at the very least, but I want to see the Oni Warriors keep pushing this lead. I mean, Awesome Jake uses the ult trying to catch out Tingz, the level 18 Merlin. Not going to be able to find it. They are going to dive and find the beats. He didn't have to, but Tingz didn't know. And Panitom's going in.
Panitom finds a Typhoon, and that's enough damage to kill CaptainTwig. Maybe some extra. Up against Variety, stun, connects, crushing wave just off the mark. And the splash after not enough, so Panitom's going to go in, finds the pull, but it's not to bring him far enough in. Instead, Panitom gets a little bit of extra healing. That may have just saved him from going down to that tier 2 tower. The Oni Warriors grab their pick, and they've got to back away now.
Okay, let me be clear. Never mind. What? Pegon is still around. Remember, he already used those beats, but they're coming back up shortly. Stun locked. Where's the damage? Not too much. It looks like Pegon is going to be just fine, able to run out here, thanks to the peel from Awesome Jake. When I said I wanted to see the Oni Warriors get more aggressive, I didn't mean Horus ult into the enemy jungle. I meant, hey, you've got a lead. Maybe we step up the Fire Giant, see what happens. But it looks like they are feeling themselves. They have quite the lead, and they are showing it. Jarcorrr, at the very least, has been able to get free farm in the meantime. But he still cannot bridge that gap. He doesn't have as much crit online. The Executioner is going to help. There are some tankier targets on the side of the Warriors you'd want to deal with, but I'd say Netrioid is just running the show now. I'm looking at the Iza's damage numbers whenever they group up into fights. And it does start flying. Those crits will add up, and that's why CaptainTwig's here. Are they going to try and force something under tier 1? Doesn't seem like the smartest call, and Jake uses that ultimate. They're going to fight this.
Just barely gets Pegon in. That's 3. Crushing wave obliterates 2 of the Camelot Kings in an instant. And the Oni Warriors, now 13 kills up. Still 5,000 gold in the lead. Will waltz on over to the Fire Giant. Already used that ult from Jake to get in there, so it's going to be a long walk over. But only 3 of the Kings alive to try and contest this, and one of them, your long-range Hunter, is already out of the question.
They have plenty of DPS. Like I said, Netrioid is covering that mark. Pegon's going to be on zone duty because who's stepping up to the 5-in-1 Hebo? Looks like no one. So first Fire Giant of game 2 goes the way of the Oni Warriors, uncontested. And now it's just time to get farmed. See, here's the issue with things like Rat. You're a glass cannon, you do plenty of damage, but what happens when you're up against a mage that just does more damage than you? You can't really deal with the Hebo. I mean, Twig has been spending a lot of his time over on right trying to deal with SOT, but 1 in 5? This Ratatoskr really can't get enough farm, can't do enough damage, and just gets 1v1 with pretty much everyone. I would argue even Jake beats him in a 1v1 right now if he catches him in the jungle, so not easy for CaptainTwig to try and get active. It's pretty much his ult, get out, or ult and hope your team can clean up. At the very least, you got Tingz. He's level 20. No one else is level 20, so that's good. But how much damage can he provide when the rest of his team can't frontline?
We've seen a lot of siege stalls from Merlin so far this weekend. Camelot Kings are going to need a little bit of that around their Phoenixes to hold back the Oni Warriors. The Arc and Genetics were initially going to go back to base, but instead we'll get a little bit more pressure on this tier 2 tower. A Runic Bomb was in hand. That should be able to take down tier 2. Adds a little bit of help now. For Arc and Genetics, CaptainTwig spots out Jake in the jungle though, and Panitom on the way. Could mean that we might see a potential fight break out. Jake goes for the dash, holds the knockup, wants the slow, but will only find on Genetics passing by. Is that enough time for Panitom and the rest of the squad to move in? Seems that Jake is just here to slow down backs.
Yeah, just stop them out. No one's really got the chase. Panitom was on the way, but I don't think Panitom and Jake are doing enough damage to really net going in by themselves. Speaking of net, that's a lot of damage, and a baseball coming through trying to steal that fire away.
Big baseball.
Oh, but that's so much damage. That's what I'm talking about. You just flight him down. Panitom's got no fear of that 1v1 ever. And he's untouched. There's no damage to that health bar. Panitom gets out cleanly, and that's an easy solo kill.
So now 30 seconds until CaptainTwig is back on the map. A tier 2 tower that was taken by the Camelot Kings a moment ago will now be traded for one in the left lane and the mid. Variety misses the pickup onto Panitom, who dashes out. SOT will deal with his solo lane opposition. It's a blink in with Panitom and the rest of the squad. Only finds a stun onto Genetics. Ultimate from Yark will hit Netrioid, and that's a lot. Thrown back over towards the Izanami. Jarcorrr doing a lot. Variety finds the push. One more auto would have done it. But Variety gets the heal just in time. So SOT cannot find the solo kill under Variety's own Phoenix.
They are able to keep those Phoenixes up, which is a big win because the Camelot Kings are down by quite a lot of gold. We are in territory where losing those Phoenixes could be the best problem when these Fire Giants come your way. I mean, everyone is a threat. SOT almost soloed out of Hercules at 22 minutes in the game, which is a scary thing when you're looking at your solo lane opposition. We already saw what happens when Panitom finds CaptainTwig sleeping in mid lane. That's an easy 1v1. And of course, Pegon didn't have to use much, but that crushing wave can be a delete button for 3 members of the Camelot Kings. So they're just going to get their safe farm and try and stall out for this next Fire Giant. I would say at this point, it'd be worth it for CaptainTwig to try and go for an ult steal. His life, unfortunately, is not worth that much, and stealing that Fire Giant is a great way to try and stall out this game and let it go longer to get some itemization online. But it is so difficult to outburst a Hebo, especially with Panitom there, especially with Sot there with Polynomicon. They're just crossing their T's and dotting their I's as far as I'm concerned. The Oni Warriors, if they lose this, it's because they threw.
The Warriors with that large lead. We'll see if they can maintain that and leverage this lead even. Try and get some pushes on the Phoenixes. For now, it'll be a Fire Giant with no contest from the Camelot Kings. CaptainTwig going to deal with waves in left to keep those pushed out. Mid and right, or at least the mid lane wave is being dealt with by Panitom to keep it close enough for his team to move in, while the rest of the squad of the Oni Warriors starts to move right. It's getting dangerous now for the Camelot Kings. Siege defense, the name of the game, but how do you defend against a 4-man dropship of the Oni Warriors? Nobody was in position to defend this. It's just Genetics in the middle of the Pillar of Agony. Variety drop back in. SOT lives through, and Panitom cleans them up. That's 3 off the map in the blink of an eye. BigManTingz stun. Beads are gone. Panitom goes in. That's a double for the Susano. Only Jarcorrr left alive to defend against all 5 members. Silenced out the knock up, the water hands, It's a DSI for the Warriors and a Game 2 win to tie up the set.
Definitely a strong answer back for the Oni Warriors. If you were talking about clean play before, I would say a bit of a draft dip as well. Giving the Hades to Everett SOT, he had a field day. It didn't seem like anyone was dealing with that pick. Pegon getting that beautiful double kill made that Hebo was going to be a delete button pretty much the rest of the game, and more specifically, CaptainTwig just could not get anything going. We were talking about playing a bit on tilt. It really seemed like the Camelot Kings were just going in one after one, making questionable decision. You can't make plays like that when you're in this league. That little gold lead turns to a lot, and the Oni Warriors, they didn't drop anything after that.
And that's sometimes the unfortunate nature of going against teams like this, teams that love to scrap. When you're a team as tenured as the Camelot Kings, one that is kind of built on the macro play, being able to farm, knowing your team fight's going to come later. Unfortunately, when you get drugged down into the mud of the team like the Oni Warriors who love this kind of battle, it's not always going to pan out well for you. Congrats to the Oni Warriors on tying up the set, but now, still a long way to go. Remember, it is a best of 5, Game 2 complete, Game 3 right around the corner.
Well, welcome back, everyone. And after the first loss for the Kings in the year 2023, we have a tie set at 1-1. And I'd say that that win was anything but free, although they worked real hard to try and make it so for the Warriors. Of course, if you like free things, there's always there's a gem storm going on right now. You can get
Something
free
like
gems
that.
whenever you get that. There's free Pele skin. A lot of stuff I think that is available for you out there. And that one specifically, if you click up on there's like a crown right there. Click it. You'll get a thing. Mifflin, this is an interesting time to be in. And that we got a game that has a couple bumps in the road, but the Kings feel more or less in control in game number 1. And then we got game number 2. Very different game from both the Kings and the Warriors, it feels like. Back on track for what the Warriors maybe would have liked.
Yeah, I mean, the Warriors, Charlie called it a draft diff. I'm not certain that I agree. I would call it a laning phase diff, a global laning phase diff at that. Duo, mid, and solo all soloed their opponents at some point in this game, and meanwhile Panitom is also rotating around the map and absolutely dominating. Games like this are simultaneously the most difficult and easiest to break down because they're simple. They got owned. And it's simply put. They utilize the mobility of their composition and the high damage output and the faster scaling when you're 5 levels up on everybody. Everybody's 5 levels up on everybody. Things tend to just work out. If Panitom only needs to use 1/5 of his kit to kill somebody, things are probably just going to work out. So often the Camelot Kings were very nearly able to find these turnarounds, but SOT survives with 1/100th of his HP 4 or 5 times throughout this game. Panitom does the exact same. How do you break that one down? They just won early.
Yeah.
They won mid, and it never made it to late.
Sometimes it's that simple, man. Not usually against the Kings, but sometimes it's that simple. And, you step up, you knock it out of the park, send the Kings back to maybe get a little bit of a reset. First game they've lost, if I'm remembering when Phase 3 playoffs happened, right? Because they qualified straight to Worlds from there. So since the finals, they played up against the Leviathans. So since like November, it's been like 5 months maybe. Well, I guess technically it's April, so let's call it 6, even though it was the end of November, beginning of April. Who cares? We're just going to take the numbers and pretend. And so it's an interesting dynamic to be in, right? Obviously, I don't think they came into this tournament thinking that they were going to go unscathed, even though they kind of did that at the World Championship. I don't think they came into that tournament thinking they'd go unscathed. And so what kind of changes? Is it just like mobility? Are you stripping away some of these gods? Are you changing your god pool on their team? Or do you think you could run it back and it wouldn't happen like that again and it would just kind of shift things up? We got picks and bans, so while they get their bans out, you can elaborate.
Skill issue?
Skill issue?
Skill issue? I mean, I really don't think it had much to do with the compositions. I mean, you could remove individual pieces. You're saying, well, SOT's Hades is just going to solo me no matter what I play. I mean, sure. You could completely draft around safety if you think you're so much better in the team fight late game. But I think if the Kings ran back the exact same 5, and the Oni Warriors run back the exact same 5, it's not a guaranteed outcome. It's just restrict losses in the early, get to the portion of the game that you're good at playing. And the Oni Warriors, their strategy is, don't let that happen. Yeah. That one is so simple. Sure, get rid of the Susano. I'm not even certain that the Susano really was the root cause of that early game. It really was just laners dying to their lane opponents.
It feels like, at least for the Kings, maybe trying to put themselves in a position that an Afro could still be open as well, right? Nox, Susano, you've got a lot of picks that are still open. The Terra, aforementioned, last game was played, did not win. Cernunnos, Baba Yaga, Yamoja banned out by the Warriors, so if Afro makes it through, they either have to first pick it, which I think the Kings, after game 1, feel pretty confident in their capabilities to deal with, especially if they're throwing it over towards solo. They do go for the Izanami instead for the ban. So with the top 6 locked away, it's this weird balance. It almost feels criminal if they don't pick Aphrodite. But if they're going to throw it into solo, it feels almost better for them to skip over it? I don't even know if I can stand by that sentence. It feels like you won it no matter what, right?
Yeah,
She's
the Oni
good.
Warriors win condition that we have seen established so far throughout
Yeah.
this tournament is run it down, Jazzberry Jam. I'm still waiting on the fans to get at me with a good Oni Warriors iteration of the Jazzberry Jam.
Did you hear the second iteration I had? I don't know if I said it on
let's hear it.
broadcast or not, because I had said raspberry and you said no.
Yeah, it's too close.
And so I thought what I needed to do was relate more to you specifically.
Oh, okay.
The Rizberry.
Yeah, they're not rizzing them up, though. They're mugging them.
Oh,
They're literally mugging them.
Gunberry.
Gunberry Jam. All right, yeah, all right.
I don't
the
know.
Oni Warriors
Nobody
are
else got up.
Gunberrying them.
I gotta brainstorm
Someone's
here.
got to
for
do
you.
it. But the point I'm
apparently
trying
not
to make,
clever.
the point I'm trying to make is that Aphrodite does not facilitate that play style. Aphrodite wants to stack defense and make someone an absolute unkillable monster in
Yeah.
the late game. The Oni Warriors seem unconcerned with the late game. They don't want to play it. Given the ideal world, the idyllic situation, a utopian situation for the Oni Warriors, the game ends at 15 minutes. And they've absolutely dominated like we had just seen previously. So, Aphrodite, I don't think it's it for them.
I can't think of any funny berries, man. I'm sorry. I'm
It
trying.
doesn't even have to be a berry, you know. It could be like
What kind of
they
jams
Oni
are
moded them, you know. They went demon time. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, just
Oh, yeah.
I just need something
You
to
need
say when they're
you need
running
a
it
similar
down.
phrase. Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. I do like Oni mode. That actually
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
feels cool. I don't know. Somebody out there on the internet's going to be more clever, and they'll be able to come up with something a lot faster.
There's like 8 billion of them.
And so they'll figure it out. Maybe someday one will get to you. We'll find out. Or maybe the players will come up with it themselves. Hebo, Hades, Ram, the top three for the Warriors as they finish their lock-in. That final Hunter Kings, so far Ishtar and Horus. So far have completely ignored the Aphrodite. And considering her 100% pick ban rate, I'm starting to think, Mifflin, something could go awry. Could still be a solo Horus, though, which we've seen a couple of times. But how do you I guess in the style that the Warriors are playing, does Aphrodite stop that?
Level
That's
1 through 4?
That's another question to answer.
Yeah, level 1 through 4, absolutely not.
No.
First item, you're still not safe. Second item, Aphrodite, you got your ultimate, your double defense stack. Then you're not so concerned. But if your concern is getting blitzkrieged, I don't think Aphrodite is necessarily the answer. Kali is certainly not the answer either. At least not how I've seen her played. Generally needs probably about 2 items before she's able to get involved in the team fight, with the new version of Kin Size doing so much damage. I feel like Kali probably does have a home in the meta right now, but instead Discordia locked in for the Camelot Kings. A bit of safety, some AoE damage, some great self-peel, a deterrent for the Oni Warriors on their all-in dive composition, all-in dive style. Oh, we can share with the class.
Okay, so this one suggestion came from production of Onion, like onion, but which made me think Oni-owned, or Onied, whatever. But then we got, if they wipe, they are the only one standing, and that made me chuckle. And now you've made chat endure that joke.
Yeah, that's on me.
I'm sorry, because that made me miss some of the last points you made.
Only
and
one
I
standing.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Who said that?
Lewis.
Good work, Lewis. Shouts Cam16.
Bakasura, Mercury get banned out here by the Kings. Even though the Kali had been hovered for a second there, it is the Hunbats and the Naja that get banned out. Yeah, Thor.
That's
maybe
Twig Thor.
forgotten about a little bit. Twig locks it in and is feeling pretty happy about that. But wouldn't the last few times we saw it not...
He swore off of it last time we saw it. He came up and apologized to the fans and his team. It was a win. I'm not so certain we'd credit Twig for that win. But it's been 6 or 7 months. Maybe he's cooked something up on the Thor.
Who knows? Maybe now's the time. The meta has stepped up. Maybe it's going solo and we're getting juked by Twig. See what he ends up doing with that one. Last pick, going to be a very interesting one, I think, for the Kings, to maybe dictate some more positions for the rest of their lineup since they have some flexibility. Warriors still need a jungler, something Panitom can maybe hard carry on. Susano, Bakasura, Mercury banned out, Thor gone, Hunbats, Najda. I mean, you were just talking about maybe having a home in the meta for Kali. Do you think Panitom could pull that out, or do you think he wants to go somewhere else with this comp?
Knowing Panitom, I don't think he will go towards the Kali.
Yeah.
Ask me if he's capable of playing any
Kali
assassin. I'll say yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I think he's certainly capable, but the Oni Warriors want to make it happen early, and I think Fenrir fits that style much better. This is an interesting composition, though, from the Oni Warriors, in that it's hard to lock down where each one of these pieces individually are going to go. It is likely Iset towards mid, Habwa in the jungle, then Hades over in the solo lane. That is a magical damage stack.
Yeah.
But it's all early game pieces. Habwa with Doom Orb, he's online. Hades with Doom Orb. We just one-shotting Variety in the previous game. Iset with Doom Orb. I mean, let's get a little triple Doom Orb stack up here. Everybody's fast and everybody's hitting hard and everybody's got their penetration in first slot. But now the Oni Warriors have simplified their game. Whereas in the previous match it was, okay, we got our kill, let's get another kill, let's get another kill. Now it's, okay, we got our kill, is Circle Protection up? Let's get Gold Fury. Let's get Pyromancer. Nobody's going to contest us on this. You've got damage mitigation, you've got protections, you've got healing, you've got damage output, and the largest secure on map. I love this draft from the Oni Warriors. The only concern being is if you fall behind on it, comeback mechanics aren't necessarily there.
Yeah.
Defense, when you're ahead, is so strong, and when you're allowed to itemize defensively against a triple mage composition, feels like you're going to find a whole lot of value with that lead.
And maybe gives some leniency. I mean, a Hercules already pretty tanky, survivable. Maybe a lot more to work with in the solo lane here. It kind of catches me off guard to think about the fact that Fenrir support is something we haven't gotten to see in a long time. And so bringing that
Fenrir
back.
support.
Yeah.
Where am I? I gave it to Panda. I'm
Well,
going
because
cross-eyed.
well, when you see the assassin locked in, it's like that makes sense. And then you mentioned the draft, and I looked up and I went, oh, wait a minute, yeah, you're right.
Did I say double jungle, Evo
Yeah,
and Fenrir
Evo-
jungle?
and you know what? They could do it. There's 2 speed buffs
Might
if
as
they
well
really
be.
wanted to. I mean, that is what we used to see, right? If a Fenrir was going into support, it was, I'm going to play aggressive, and then I'm going to run around the map, and I'm going to gank lanes and cause trouble everywhere I can. Like, he was a jungler, except he wouldn't farm the jungle for the most part, probably steal a couple of buffs every now and then. But it was to really facilitate the rest of the lanes. It feels like, more or less, that might be what we're in for here.
Yeah, I think it's not even to facilitate the lanes, it's to run it down in the duo lane. The first 10 minutes of the game seem all-encompassing and all-important for the Oni Warriors, so now, thank you, Gore, keeping me honest here, looking at the composition once more, you've got rundown potential just about everywhere. This is a very scary first 10 minutes for the Camelot Kings. The Kings, no stranger to this. So often this has been the answer devised by other SPL teams trying to figure out how to deal with the methodical nature of the Camelot Kings, the reigning world champions. It's run it down. Don't let them play their strongest portion. This seems to me to be a composition from the Oni Warriors designed for exactly that. Make it happen early. Evaluating how they look at the late game 5-stack from an even state, I think, is almost disingenuous, just because that's not what this draft was built for. So evaluate it for its own strengths. Very strong in the early. Massive threat on the beads, and a lot of potential to snowball.
Well, you had mentioned their playstyle. That's the kind of words they want to hear going into it. Will the Warriors take the lead, or will the Kings push themselves ahead? We'll find out in game number 3.
Talk about a rundown style of composition for the Oni Warriors jumping in to our 3rd game of the set, and it's actually going to be Iset support this time around for Awesome Jake. Panitom taking the Fenrir into the jungle for himself. So 2 mages for high damage, 1 for some CC and support setup. It's J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug for game number 3 between the Warriors and the Kings. We take a look at last game, Trelly. And it spiraled out of control very fast.
Oh, yeah.
In favor of the Oni Warriors.
It did.
Feels like this is a composition that can maybe run similarly for the Warriors here in game 3.
Yep. I mean, after game number 1, or I guess in this case, the first win for the Oni Warriors, but game number 2, you would have had to pry that Hebo pick out of my hands if I'm Pegon. There's no way I'm giving that one to anyone else. And then Awesome Jake has plenty of CC. I think the Iset has an interesting matchup up against the Horus. You can get stunned out of Wind Gust, but you can also immune the knockup with your own. So you have a few ways you can play it, and in this case, you're probably going to get good pressure and have plenty of burst damage towards those objectives. But I mean, like Miff said, this Panitom pick is all about aggression, all about early fighting. Not getting the late game, you don't want to give him a chance. And Fenrir is so strong. at trying to just control relic timers and click W. I mean, you just want to be jumping in consistently. Unchained can be such a potent tool if used properly. And I'm thinking that's the call. Stick around with Evo, and you've got one of the best level 2 fights in the game in that mid 2v2.
Interesting. I've been really keeping track of a lot of the different types of starts that we've been seeing from our pro teams, and it feels like the Camelot Kings, I'll hold that for a moment, and it seems Variety won't be able to get the kill there, but it feels like the Camelot Kings are the only team still holding on to kind of the start of old and back in 10.2, which was the triple camp for the dual lane, the quad camp for everybody else on the right side of the map. Every other team has had some kind of adaptation to it, whether it be a 3-camp split for 2 players versus 1 over on the opposite side. Really only the dual lane is still remaining parity as far as the starts are concerned for a lot of teams.
And it feels bad because if you look, it really does make Twig's life harder. He shows up to lane level 1. He's got to watch out for the aggression that Panitom brings, and it has not stopped. Panitom just jumps in whenever he wants. Not able to pull any beads here, but remember, SOT already had to use those beads because Variety got the better end of that trade. Contrary to what happened in last game, I think he's like, I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I'm going to try and knock him up whenever he goes for a heal and stay on my toes. But Panitom comes over, wants to try and find Variety here. No beads for the Hercules, just teleport. But also, he's quite tanky at level 3.
Panitom will walk up, at least be able to take the CDR buff away from Variety, deny some experience to the solo laner of the Camelot Kings. And that's where we saw a lot of bullying happen for SOT last game. Able to get that solo kill onto Variety, snowballed his lane out of control, nearly found another one under the mid lane Phoenix later on in the game. Actually ended up getting a 1-1 trade out later on under Variety's tower. Variety doesn't have the push this time around. Thought maybe we see something for SOT. No beads up for nearly 75 seconds by that point. Could have been a kill, but unfortunate for Variety, no push available.
Yep, had to use it just to get some damage. He's not clearing waves. He's looking for poke out opportunities. And with the beats down for another minute, it doesn't look like Twig's gonna be able to hit 5 in time to capitalize off that. Maybe Variety can look for a kill on his own, but that's pretty much it. If he's got the push, he needs the boulder to really finish the job. And at level 4, you don't quite have that damage. But it looks like Twig's not gonna be able to make the rotation over for the invade, just gonna confirm Variety's blue buff for him. And that means a bit of a missed opportunity, but it's hard. If you get beads down that early, it's difficult to hit level 5. And actually be able to make use of those beads being down. Because the wall is good, but Anvil of Dawn, that's a kill guaranteed with SOT this low.
So, level 5s is maybe the mark that we're waiting for a few of these players before we see some action kick off in either lane. Variety denying SOT farm as he takes over to level 5. We'll start whittling down away at these bastions. Level 5 set up for either jungler, and I gotta imagine that that's kind of where at least the starting point for both these two teams would be, kind of the kick off, the gas pedal for one of these squads, an Anvil of Dawn or a Ragnarok would really be able to do a number on. But when I look at the side opposite of the Camelot Kings, there are 5 beads for the Oni Warriors to try and get away from all the CC as they've started up.
Camelot Kings, though, not fearing it as much. Genetics doesn't have those beads, and of course, Variety, as mentioned earlier, just holding on to the teleport for now. So, some decent targets for Panitom if he wants to try and find that early aggression. I'd be sticking around Pegon for sure. I mean, you pick someone up, bring him to Hebo, he's going to be deleting them more often than not. That ultimate, that crushing wave, does plenty of burst damage right when you get access to it at level 5. But Panitom just went for an attempted gank in mid, and that was about it. Since then, he's been farming, as you can expect from your jungler. And Variety's been bullying, as you'd expect from Hercules. Again, very different from what we saw in game number 1, where Sot just owned lane, solos out Variety, and from that point on, can do nothing. This time around, Variety's been able to fight back at least a little bit.
But up in the skies, CaptainTwig waiting for the dunk on top of Pegon. There goes beads for the Hubwa, and now that the horses arrive, Pegon stunned as soon as the wave is over, and Panitom misses the brutalize. It's a first blood for the Camelot Kings, and for CaptainTwig, almost a solo kill, but a few seconds till the boulder is up for Variety, and he will chase down Sot for the opportunity at the kill. But the boulder goes wide right, and SOT lives on.
It's a tough one to hit as well. You really need the double tap if you want to guarantee that kill, and Sot knows, hey, as long as I don't get near a wall, I'm probably just going to be able to clear this wave for free. But I do appreciate the attempt, because I like seeing the solo laners that actually want to brawl and want to fight. too often we get the, hey, I'm going to clear a wave and stay under my tower. Maybe I'll hit your Bastion a bit, but besides that, unless a jungler's here, I'm not looking to fight. I'm not going to use any of my abilities for poke. This time around, Panitom's to go for the Transcendence set. That's actually CaptainTwig, who would rather stack it up. We've only seen one Anvil of Dawn, and it netted a kill and beads down for Pegon. So now you got two pretty good targets. We already saw SOT's beads go down, and the Hebo's beads down. Once Twig's ult comes back up, I do want to see him get active. I mean, we talked about early game potential from the Fenrir. Thor's got that same opportunity, especially when relics are down.
Jake still sticking to the left side of the map on this east set, wondering when he and Genex will start to get active across the map. A lot of semi-global pressure available to the Camelot Kings, whether it be teleport from Variety or the actual semi-global ultimates from Twig and Genetics to try and get this fight going. Netrioid's got some range of his own to try and counteract, but still going to land him down the same place that he was once that ultimate finishes through. So when will we see these supports start to make some waves on the map? Genetics has been making short rotations over, end up helping net that kill onto Pegon just earlier on. Could be wanting to go for another one as well. Looked for a body block there against Jake, but Jake a little too mobile in that wing gust to be able to stop in place.
Twig's going to chase out Panitom, though, maybe trying to find a counter gank, both heading over to duo lane, and it looks like Jarcorrr going to be the first one to run, but they're going to dive this. Here goes Twig.
Netrioid runs in, but Yark has nothing but a double dunk by CaptainTwig. The hammer hits Netrioid, he gets picked up, beats out, finds the double wall, but in the sky goes Net. Needs a little bit of extra help. And now some backup from Genetics. BigManTingz throws out the golden apple, but it's wide this time around. The double tap lands through, and the spin. CaptainTwig and the Camelot Kings turn the solo kill into a 2-for-1.
I'm amazed that Panitom wanted to commit to that gank knowing that Thor was in the sky. I mean, it almost worked out. It was close. It was a double tap away from Twig turning the 1v2, and also some snipes away from Twig dying, but the rotation over from the rest of the Camelot Kings is really what made that gank not so worth for the Oni Warriors. Panitom uses beads, uses the ultimate. They claim a kill onto Jarcorrr, but lose two in the process. And getting this Thor off to a 2-0 start, and once again, you're getting relics down. Now Twig has even more opportunities to try and find those Anvils of Dawn and completely change the way this early game was meant to be played. The desk highlights it perfectly. Early game, yes, all well and good, but here's a scrap over and right.
Variety throws out the boulder. One more auto does it. Variety gets the 1v1 and even 2v1 at the very end. But Panitom able to trade it out, pick up a kill for himself. Variety feeling much more confident now against SOT here in game 3.
Yep, you have that ability when you get your Hercules passive stacked up. You do start swinging. And it looks like just not enough healing. I mean, that's one of the benefits of going the Bancroft's talent is you have plenty of sustain. You can just pop your ult every wave, you get a full heal. With Do More, yeah, you're doing more damage, but you don't have that same level of sustain. You can't just eat a whole Herc combo while ulting him. And because of that, Variety actually gets off to a much better start in the same matchup this time. And is able to climb ahead one level. At the very least, Panitom gets the kill. Is able to return fire. But Twig is smart to be on the left side of the map. Netrioid does not have beads and is in some trouble if Twig ever connects with that ultimate.
It goes up in the sky, but just to disengage, rejoins Genetics and Jarcorrr up at his side of the map near the purple buff. Just because Twig got a bit of an awkward position, took down the purple, got separated from his team, and will now have to lose out on the ultimate because of it. And also Jake, one combo from Genetics and a couple autos after from Yark is enough to put the E set at half HP and force the dual lane of the Warriors back.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen enough on the left side of the map. Because of Awesome Jake, I'm guessing that's the reason the Camelot Kings don't want to go for any sort of Gold Fury baits. They've got plenty of pressure. They've got relics down. They've got a 2-level lead. But even that is not enough to feel confident with circle protection on map. We saw a little bit of a scrap here. Panitom wants to make sure the ward coverage is safe so SOT can poke effectively, but Twig shows up, hits a double tap, reminds Panitom where he's at, and then goes on back to farming. So it looks like the left side of the map is still where most of the action's going to be, and now Jarcorrr is able to just keep pushing these waves. I mean, with a 2-level lead up against a Rama, you never really want to take that 1v1 versus an Ishtar. She has the advantage in almost every point of the game until late when you get some crit online and your attack speed stim starts really getting points into it.
So Genetics rotates into mid, where there are 4 players here, and he dashes up against 2, gets stopped in place immediately, but now has some backup. Jarcorrr on the way means that a potential fight around the Pyromancer, Genetics up into the sky, will bring his dual lane partner with him. Question is, where are they crashing down in? It's all the way to the back line by Jake and Pegon. Panitom has been separated, and SOT has been isolated by the Camelot Kings. Jarcorrr picks up the kill, and the King can back up to the Pyromancer. Panitom is here, but unsure if he wants to try and go in up against this fight, especially with Variety frontlining against Jake and Netrioid. The Camelot Kings pick up their 5th kill of the game and a Pyromancer as well.
And it looks like that's all they can grab. Variety was stepping forward, wanted to see if he could pull something off of Awesome Jake, and Pegon forced to ult out defensively just because he was a bit out of position. That gold continues to climb. Superior map play there from the Camelot Kings. I mean, they have so much pressure. They really are able to do anything they want, assuming, I mean, if you're Horus ulting to the backline, you have to have some serious map control. There is no reason that the Horus ult with an ADC in tow goes to the backline, and the Oni Warriors are even worried about that. They just have plenty of map control, and that right side pyro is down. At the very least, Awesome Jake has that action to try and defend you, but they cannot look to fight anytime soon. And now they're actually going to go for a pull. The Oni Warriors, I lied, they want to fight, but around objectives, no less.
Genetics, only one here for the time. Gold Fury down to a quarter HP, 4 versus 2. Panitom tries to pick up 1, will do so, but the Kings steal away the Gold Fury. Jarcorrr all by his lonesome grabs that 1. Jake tries to heal up, but he does not get a lot of value from that heal. Genetics, the shield comes through from Jake just in time. Jarcorr's the one who goes down first in the team fight. Netrioid with the snipes, and Jake living through. They lose the Fury, but they at least get a one-man trade out for the Oni Warriors.
You gotta give credit to Genetics. He was able to get in CC and also drop the Runic Bomb to steal that Fury away. A little bit of damage going the way of Pegon, but CaptainTwig, he just used his hammer. He's gonna be in some trouble here. Can't get up to the sky, and Pegon gets credit for that one. Seems like a bit of an oversight. I don't see why Twig really had to step up after his team gets the objective, but wanted to try and find Pegon. He gets a blink down, but not enough damage. At the very least, keeps that gold in their favor. Props to Genetics again. Great Runic Bomb placement.
I wonder what BigManTingz was doing. They're standing by the tier 1 tower. Seems it may have at least just been to pop the bubble from Awesome Jake. He has gone second item into the Magi's cloak once again. Last game he went it immediately after starter. This time at least getting the prophetic cloak. Double dipping into that side of the tree. Genetics will face tank some damage, but not enough from the Oni Warriors to really deter him. Tier 1 tower nearly gone, and the one final brute minion will be enough to drop that one down. Props to Minion for being able to drop the tier 1 tower. Gives the Camelot Kings a little bit of advantage across the map now.
Isn't that the new god?
That's the new one.
Yeah.
God of something.
And he was able to grab the tower. That's huge.
Which of the abilities do you think Minion used to help him take down that tier 1 tower?
I don't remember the names.
I think it was Light Jog. That's it. That seems like that was the one that did the job.
Well, Light Jog was enough to make sure that this tower gets gone. So the Camelot Kings group up, and actually Genetics was in the sky just to check out if they were able to find Netrioid. Remember, there is a big lead here. This Rama has been unfortunately stuck underneath his own tier 2 tower. Can't really get active, so it's just going to be sitting back for the time being. It looks even kills-wise. I mean, the Oni Warriors have shown some ability to fight. They want to pull objectives. They have that circle of protection. But in this case, the Camelot Kings, with a superior map play, with better farming, finding these invades, finding these buff camps, are going to keep that gold climbing in their favor.
Now the Oni Warriors, what will their answer be to the lead that the Camelot Kings
Twig got
have
Bracer?
amassed himself? Twig goes Bracer. And a beads for Variety, second item, but no beads for Genetics, so unfortunately can't knock that bingo as well. It's another square we're going to have to wait on, is the oops all beads square. For now, the Camelot Kings still holding on to their lead and starting to utilize that across the map as SOT hasn't been able to get anything really going in the solo lane. 0-2-2 so far, helped a little bit early on in a fight, but has not been able to get much of his own going up against Variety, who feels much more confident on the Hercules here in Game 3.
Now the pull begins once again. Variety has zone duty done. He actually clocked out. Doesn't even need to at this point. So the Camelot Kings will be able to grab that one. And at the very least, Netrioid gets some much needed farm. After getting bullied out of his own lane so many times, he's able to grab that tower for himself. I'm guessing the play is CaptainTwig drops the bracer and then ults from it and tries to 100-0 the Hebo before he gets 100-0 himself, but you gotta think that Aegis might come in handy with all the burst damage on the side of the Oni Warriors. I guess you can't Aegis death. That's the call. So if Twig just kills you...
Well, if you get Aegis, you get immune from death for a few seconds.
Yeah, but my point, that was a bad phrasing. What I meant was, you don't have to Aegis if they're dead. That's better.
There you go.
And that's Twig's motive so far. And it's a little scary. Like I said, the Hebo does have the potential to just beads, knock up, ult you. Even if you immune the knock up, the damage from Water Spout is pretty gnarly late game with the build that Pegon's been going so far. We'll have to see how it goes out. I'm assuming we'll get to see that Anvil of Dawn in action towards this Oni Fury that spawned in on the left side of the map. And Awesome Jake's in some big trouble. Why is he so far up?
Oh! Well, maybe he was thinking, well, guys, I've got a Magi's. I can live through 1 CC. Unfortunately for him, there's 2 CCs that a Horus has under his belt. That's enough to take him down, and Panitom a 3rd HP away. SOT half, and gets hit by the golden apple and the boulder. The double ball thrown out from the Kings drops SOT. Fury and Fire still standing. It seems the Camelot Kings will take the lesser of the two. Oni Fury under the eye of the Camelot Kings.
I mean, that was a pretty sick play from Sot. I think that the apple wouldn't have killed if he used his ult mitigations, but Variety said, I'm going to just make sure you go down. Variety getting chased out. I don't think he dies here. He has plenty of healing. He's pretty quick. Even with the snipes, not enough. This Hercules is going to be able to get out of trouble, and he is. A little sketchier than I would have hoped, but so far so good, and now Pegon's going to have to run.
Immediate beats for Pegon. Wow, CaptainTwig's health erased in a near instant. Still holding on to about 30% of it. But man, that dunk down, instant beads, and a turnaround by Pegon.
Imagine if he had ult.
Imagine if he had it at that point. Also, I think Netrioid whiffed the first 2 snipes against Variety, who was running like in a straight line in the jungle.
He's very fast.
I guess, you know, he wasn't accounting for that much movement speed from the Hercules.
That's what it was. You see Variety pop his heal, he has regrowth, he's got Golden Blade, he just
zooming.
You can't hit that moving target as he just zooms away. You can. I'm just trying to like help him out.
He hit the hardest of the 3 snipes. That was the real tries. He wanted to show that he didn't need to hit the other 2. He did if he wanted to get the kill, but didn't need to because he can hit the last one. Panitom will show up to help out against Variety, but Panitom's brought the rest of the Camelot Kings with them. Jarcorrr has shown up. BigManTingz now on the way. Panitom tries to jump out, and maybe has just enough distance. BMT throws out. It's another double ball throw from the Kings. They're just complimenting each other at this point with it. And this time it nets yet another kill. This one for BigManTingz and a tier 1 tower to boot.
They're going to keep going. Looks like want to go for the push or look towards this Fire Giant. Definitely the correct call with how much lead the Camelot Kings have. Looks like Pegon's going to go back to base. He's not even going to stick around and try and defend. So the call may be Netrioid go up for some snipes and everyone else stay away. But here comes SOT. Now they want to fight, but Pegon backed.
CaptainTwig is here as well. Ultimate for the Thor, but Sot walks up to die. CaptainTwig goes in the sky, although he ate quite a lot of damage inside the Fire Giant pit. Dunks on top of Jake. Finds a near full combo, but Pegon with the turnaround takes down 2. That's a double for the Habwa, but Jake will fall nonetheless. Netrioid half HP. Pegon still full, but now only 3 alive with the Camelot Kings. Variety and Twig maybe not paying respect to the rotational power from Pegon.
This one's hurting my brain a bit, J-Mac. I mean, I like the call to just let Netrioid go for the snipes, and that's it. That's your weak contest for the Fire Giant. But Sot didn't get that message. He decided to go in. Pegon said, no way I'm going over to that Fire Giant. I'm backing, which I think was the correct play. But then, Twig decides to go in. Again, does not have Aegis. He got Bracer, so gets absolutely deleted on arrival when the Hebo shows up. And that was just some questionable plays from both parties. At this point, the Camelot Kings, of course, get the better end of that trade because they still have Fire Giant on 3 and they have the lead. And now Panitom wants to take a 1v1, and I don't think he wins this at all.
No, crits are pretty good from Jarcorrr, plus a backup from Genetics, the 2v1,
Pegon.
2v2. Pegon is here, double knockup. Crushing Wave Aegis out, this time by Yark. Gotta get out of the circle of protection if you want to live through this. So CaptainTwig in the sky, where's the dunk down? It's too late. Jarcorrr is fallen, but BigManTingz turns one around, a stun on a Netrioid. You gotta get some help to BMT, you gotta get some help now for Awesome Jake as 3 of the Kings run him down, and it's CaptainTwig with the extra kill at the back end. A 4-man swing for just Jarcorrr.
I mean, that would have been a closer fight if SOT's there, but he's on the right side of the map, so the Camelot Kings are able to keep pushing. They're going to go on the left side, also push up mid. You lose your ADC, so it's a bit more difficult to go for a Phoenix, but 2 tier 2 towers would certainly help out that gold swing. Still in the Camelot Kings' favor. Panitom is going to stick around, but I don't imagine wants to actually go in, wants to stand here menacingly and tell them, hey, you can't stick around this tier 2 forever. But some good damage returned, and SOT actually is going to stay. So recognize there's no Phoenix trouble. I'm going to just get as much farm as possible. If I can rotate in with a full item, maybe that'll make more of a difference than my presence towards those tier 2 defenses. Pegon has been getting value. I mean, with so little immunities, of course, we saw how good an Aegis can be. Jarcorrr lived for another 15 seconds or so because he was able to Aegis that crushing wave. But Pegon is still doing so much damage, topping the charts. And this Hebo, he's online. I mean, you got Rod, you got Soul Reaver, you got Deso, and you're level 20. One Hebo can certainly change the tides of this game. Despite the gold deficit, I'm thinking Pegon, if he's on point, could really change the tides.
7-0-4 for BigManTingz on this Discordia. Heartseeker now done for CaptainTwig on the Thor. With a completed start item for BMT as well with the build that he's gone. See the damage output that this disco has. Currently topping the charts of damage is Pegon though. 15, nearly 16,000. Over 5k up ahead of his next 2, which are both of the hunters for the teams. But the Camelot Kings are setting up now for the Fire Giant. Less than a minute until it respawns back on the map. And it's the Camelot Kings with the offensive position around it. SOT nearly caught out. Beads the knockup that didn't even connect. It says it's done in. BigManTingz nearly takes down Sot, but is able to dash away from the golden apple this time around.
I like that we got the little music as it passed by. And I finally figured out the strat. It was, hey, Genetics, I want Bracer of Illumination. Can you get Bracer of Radiance? And now they have both, but look at this. The Oni Warriors are just pushing down mid lane. They're going to grab the tier 2 tower. It doesn't seem like Twig wants to go to the sky just yet. He wants to see what he can find. Doesn't grab that Magi's, but Netrioid's going for left side tower. They're just going to give up that Fire Giant, but the Camelot Kings, they can't go for it yet.
Warriors split pushing the map. And it's forced this awkward separation of the Camelot Kings. One, that being Jarcorrr, a little far from the action. Panitom goes in, finds CaptainTwig, who doesn't have his beads to get out of this one. CaptainTwig is gone. Circle protection is there to save a few lives. Not going to get a massive heal this time around. But Genetics in the sky is going to be joining with BMT. Panitom goes back in. The damage from Panitom is not enough. It's a double kill for BigManTingz. Awesome Jake low. The golden apple off the mark this time around. BMT sniped out by Netrioid. That's a massive shutdown onto the mid laner. The Kings and Netrioid lands into the middle of 3, rolls away, but is dropped anyways by Jarcorrr at the tail end.
That's a 9-0 shutdown. We're about to see Netrioid get some big upgrades next time he shows up to the fight, but Camelot Kings lose 2 of their own. They're still feeling confident enough to go for the Fire Giant. Pegon doesn't have Blink, doesn't have ult. It doesn't seem like too much defense can be shown here. I mean, Jarcorrr is absolutely shredding. And look at this, Genetics has 2 runic bombs. It's possible, but it's a risky gamble to go for this steal.
Fire Giant still doing a lot of damage to Genetics. Jake walks in, but he's getting a lot from at least the hazards of the Fire Giant. The shield holds him out. Jarcorrr, ooh, a total knockout there from Pegon is huge. CaptainTwig now in the sky. Genetics is about to die to the Fire Giant, but the Kings do manage to get it. Jenkins uses ultimate. CaptainTwig lands on top of Pegon. The crushing wave nearly takes out CaptainTwig, but Yark takes him out. It's a 1-for-1. Awesome Jake still alive throughout all, but SOT holds on to 3 inside the Pillar of Agony. Gets a double of his own, and Panitom picks up 1 more, throws him to the wolves of Awesome Jake. And Panitom picks up 1 of his own, a 3-for-1 trade, and only variety left with fire.
And BigManTingz spawned in, was not able to grab that buff. Panitom almost got baited, jumped in, right when Tingz was showing back up. What a scrap. This is what I was talking about. Not enough damage. I mean, Pegon didn't quite have ulti, but it stalled long enough because Jarcorrr wasn't shredding through that Fire Giant like you would expect from a crit Ishtar. Genetics, as you said, almost died to the FG. They end up grabbing it, but at what cost? Having it on Variety, you lose your 9-0 Discordia before the fight even begins, and CaptainTwig not able to delete these damage-dealing mages. It seems like Thor keeps going in and keeps getting absolutely chunked when it happens. It's a bit unfortunate build-wise. I'm thinking maybe a defense item could help out, but he wants to be full glass cannon. He wants to put that bracer down, ult, and absolutely delete these targets. The good news is there's only one tanky target on the side of the Oni Warriors. It's just Jake. But SOT, Pegon, even Netrioid have been dishing out plenty of damage in the back end of these team fights. And the Camelot Kings are going to group up and go for the push, even though they don't have FG.
SOT goes past the push at least there from Variety. Netrioid takes down Genetics, who was caught in the middle of 3. The Camelot Kings started this game out so great, but once again, it's something we were talking about at the end of game 2, Charlie. When you start trying to step down to the level, or at least the style of play that the Oni Warriors excel in, the scrappy, boxing, constantly style of play, they're better at it at this point.
They are better at it, and I think I got to give props to Pegon again. I knew this Hebo would always have the opportunity to change the tides of these fights, and he hasn't been dealt with. It's been get his beats down, and then he's going to take someone out, and that is a bit of an issue. It seems that the Camelot Kings are going to let that tier 2 tower drop. The gold lead is getting back in favor because of all these Guan fights by the Oni Warriors, just taking away Fire Giants, trading blow for blow. And as long as they're not losing anything in the meantime, these Phoenixes haven't been looked at, they're happy taking that. If they get to late game, when they've got a full damage Hades, they've got a full damage Hebo, they've got Netrioid critting as hard as he has been, they're happy to take those trades. The Camelot Kings have essentially been late game for quite some time. I mean, BigManTingz can't really get stronger until he gets a 3K pot, whereas Pegon, he's got plenty more damage to build.
Still waiting. Finish up his percent pen on the opposite side there for Pegon. So nearly full build. He's already hitting as hard as he has been without the full build. Can't imagine the scary damage output that this Hobble has available. Jake does lose out on the bubble up against Variety. 65 seconds before that comes back online. I bet CaptainTwig is now maybe wishing he did have that Aegis, because as you say, every single time he dunks in on top of Pegon, it's an immediate beads 180 3-1 combo, and CaptainTwig either nearly dies or does end up dying to maybe a couple more shots from Netrioid after, or even Panitom. But split up of the Kings and the Warriors. The Kings do get the Pyromancer, not from at least a little bit of contest by Jake and Pegon, but that's all the Kings are going to grab for now. It seems a backup call for them. So for the Camelot Kings in this next team fight here, Charlie, what's kind of their avenue to maybe find an advantage up against the Warriors?
I mean, it's scary here because if you're counting on Variety to go for a pull, who's frontlining? Usually Awesome Jake. Even with the bubble gun, he's got immunity to that pull with Wing Gust, so you're sitting back saying, hey, there's a Blink Hebo that can steal this. They have Circle Protection. They've got Hades Burst. We can't go for the Fire Giant pull. The bait's never going to work. If we get it low and run away, they can just pick it up. So it's going to be sit here, wait for Genetics or Variety to find a pull. But you got to hold on to your beads as well. It's not an easy play. I think the Camelot Kings letting the Oni Warriors get back in was a massive blunder.
Variety still can't find that pickup he's been waiting for. Panitom gonna walk away back towards the mid, keep the minion wave pushed up. He's got Twig, Jarcorrr, and Genetics' attention, while Variety's been left to the rest of them. Everybody except Variety on the Kings averted their attention to Panitom, who's just minding his own business in the mid lane, pushing up a couple of waves, now walks up to see BMT. Won't jump in on this, and smart not to do so. A regrouping of the Kings around the Fire Giant. The lead that the Kings had has now dwindled to essentially nothing up against the Warriors, who have fought back multiple scrappy fights, have netted the Warriors this second chance here in game number 3.
And it's just going to be the dance. I mean, you sit around, see if you can find a pull, see if you can pull some beads. A good wall from CaptainTwig still could be a great opportunity here. But it's not going to be easy because of that. Awesome Jake is the frontliner, and he has immunity to that pull. It's not going to be easy to start this fight. They know they can't pull the Fire Giant because if it gets too low, The Oni Warriors say, hey, pick it up, we'll burst it, and then we'll win the fight after. So it's all on variety. Step up, see what you can do. At the very least, Tingz has shown if you get too close to his abilities, you're going to get half health or even more than that. So you have to watch out for Discordia constantly. And Awesome Drake is getting poked out, but Variety's in trouble.
Variety's targeted, but he didn't lose as much HP as they were hoping. Genetics barely makes out, but Pegon instantly double kills, finds the triple, and Panitom will grab one more. In the blink of an eye, this game has completely ended. It's a full house for the Oni Warriors carries. A deicide at the end, and game number 3, just like that.
I mean, I did say that if Pegon get late game, they had the delete button. I didn't think it was that big. I didn't think he could just. I didn't think he could just 100-0 CaptainTwig. By Aegis. I don't know what to say. Bracer was a huge throw. That's the analysis. Why does he have Bracer?
You don't want to scrap against a team that's willing to do so any moment, whether they're ahead or behind. The Oni Warriors have now shown that they will fight with the lead, they'll fight with the deficit, and they'll do it better than anybody else.
Yep. I mean, I think game number 1, or I guess last game, I said draft diff. It's still the Hebo and the Hades, but I think the Hebo's got to go. There has not been many answers for Pegon. I mean, even from behind, they're getting the late game, and they are showing up massively. It's a little bit too much to deal with. And then I think maybe if the Camelot Kings play the mid-bridge to late game a little bit cleaner, they don't have to worry as much about a Hebo, but they didn't. And because of that, there was no answers for the Hebo.
No. Pegon just got to free cast that game.
And
Pegon,
that is not what you want.
Pegon just got to game here in game number 3, and that is probably the last person on this team that you want to get comfortable. The Oni Warriors, they win game number 3. They bring themselves to a 2-1 lead and are now 1 game away from moving to the grand finals of our kickoff tournament. Can they close it out? Will the Kings bring it back for a tie? We'll find out in game number 4 right after this.
Well, now things are turning up, and the heat is on. 2-1. The lead is in favor of the Warriors. Again, looking good. And just like I had said last time, you can look good, not just, as I had mentioned earlier, by going to shop.highrisestudios.com/SBL and buying a jersey or a hoodie, anything like that. You can also look good in-game. You can get some free skins. Actually, right now on Twitch Prime, there's a Pele skin available for you. Yeah, it is the Heist Blade Pele. You can click the crown right there if you're watching on Twitch. And, of course, you'll be able to see a drop down. There's a ton of stuff that you're going to get with that, and go redeem your Heist Blade Pele skin, get it in game, start picking it up, playing some sick games. Of course, there's tons that you can redeem with Prime Gaming, and so hopefully you're doing that, rocking it up, especially this weekend while you've got other free things going on in game. But I've got Mifflin on the desk with me. And that one was a game, man. I mean, it was very fun to watch, very back and forth, to the point where even at the end they were talking about the fact that, you know, they were like, man, Pegon, like, we joked about him having a delete button, but he actually had a delete button. And sometimes all you need is that one really good hit, and suddenly everything falls apart for the Kings.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple too many three-man crushing waves, right? 2 or 3 too many for my counting there. Pegon absolutely dominates the late game in this one. The Hebo finds its value. I had made the mistake of saying that if the Oni Warriors fall behind with this composition, it would have been cut and dry for the Camelot Kings. I hadn't factored into my math. I forgot to carry the numbers. I didn't look at a parentheses properly and factor in 3-man ultimates from SOT, 3-man ultimates from Pegon consistently. The fact that the Camelot Kings had a couple of times in this game just fought inside a circle protection for the entire duration of the circle protection. So damage mitigation, healing all starts to add up. Damage output and delete buttons certainly there as well. I think I tend to agree with the casters at the end of that one. A couple of these picks can't be let through anymore. SOT on this Hades has proven to me that he is a consistent threat regardless of some of the healing changes. And this Hebo for Pegon, probably the biggest threat on the map right now, can't be let through. The individual plays that he's able to put out, the positioning, the free casting, it was just too much. And when he's casting like that, what you just saw on your screen, he's going to win every single game. Given that amount of space and that amount of freedom to essentially do whatever he wants with nobody finding a direct answer to him. There was no clean Thor dunk to deal with this Hebo. The Hercules wasn't allowed to just walk him down because the damage output elsewhere from the Oni Warriors was controlling him. I'm not certain what the answer would have been. Shut him down early, I suppose.
29,000 damage. Yeah, you want to shut that down. Clears everyone else by a mile. Maybe even then some. A lot that Pegon was able to provide just damage numbers-wise, then kill 835. You had mentioned that for the KDA. And so I think, like you said, if you let that one through, you are sitting on it for the first 5 minutes. It is not like if it comes back to lane, it is dying and sent back to base. That, I think, is the style of play maybe that we have to start anticipating, which, as you had mentioned at the start of this set, is something the Kings are capable of. It's not something we typically see them turn on too often, and so that's really kind of the question. Do you delve into the Warriors style to beat the Warriors, or unfortunately, maybe do you let it happen again? We'll find out. And game number 4 could be the last one here. Depends on what the Warriors draft up, and if they can play, as you said, their whole W style.
It is worth noting, though, with some of the new comeback mechanics, just to contextualize how much a lead can cost you, how much a kill streak can cost you. It was 9-0 on BMT when he died. Netrioid, credit for the kill. 1,100 gold, 1,400 experience. Dude leveled up twice and bought an item for killing one man.
Yeah.
That comeback mechanic, that's what keeps the Oni Warriors ADC in it. It's not as if Pegon was ever out of it, though, and Pegon certainly the win condition.
I think to frame that, that's 2 tier 1 towers.
Yep.
And 1 player. That's almost a tier 2 tower. It's almost a pyramid.
How
like
much
there's
experience
so
do you
much
get on a wave? Like it's 6 minions. What is it? 75 some odd experience per minion.
Yeah, I'd have to pull up Book of Thoth to get like exact.
That's
numbers.
like 10 waves.
There's. I mean, it is essentially the bridge just below its own jungle boss to be able to get something like that. And so yeah, you had mentioned it. Look, 10-3 comeback numbers, nothing to scoff at. So the Warriors changing things up this time around. Baba Yaga, Cernunnos, those were all banned out. Umoja, I believe, was their third and typically has been their third. But they seem to think maybe things are going awry. Nox, and there's that Hebo banned away from the Warriors. No jungle, no mid, no opportunities for it this game around. Horus is going to wrap out the final 3 for the Kings, joining the Hebo and the Nox. The other side, it is the Yamoja that the Warriors ban out with their top 2. Aphro went unpicked. It's actually, so I keep pulling it up, the specific pick ban stats for this tournament, and watching the pick ban rate, like from 100%, where like 2 days ago we had, or 2 days ago, yesterday, at one point we had 6, slowly that was whittled down to 5, to 4, to 3. Now Yamoja and Kern, the only 2 that still have that 100% pick ban status. But still highly valued have been the Terra, the Susano, the Aphro, the Ishtar. The Hercules, who's super on the rise. The Warriors going for something a little different this time around. Can't first pick Hebo, grab the Terra.
Maybe now you look towards the Hades for yourself as just an off-ban towards SOT. Variety certainly capable of playing that pick, and Hades has been dominant in the lane, has been dominant in the team fight as well. Would be a massive takeaway here from the Oni Warriors. The Camelot Kings as well have got options. I don't think you necessarily need to look towards your support pick. Genetics hasn't eaten up 17 bans just yet, so his god pool is still very strong, and with the Oni Warriors showing their hand early for support, maybe you could hold off at least until 3rd pick. Instead, it's the Maui Hover. Maybe the Kings want to hold off on the rest of their draft, just get the dual lane here, and allow mid, jungle, and solo to get some counter selections. Terra doesn't particularly have any poor matchups, so you're not learning too much just from the Terra there. Maui locked in. If they had wanted to, they could have certainly got this in the 3rd slot. Maybe concerned about a ban going towards it in 2nd phase, but even then, Maui's been going largely unanswered throughout this weekend. But it's genetics, Maui, and that deserves a little bit extra credence.
That is frightening, I think, is the only term I can think of that comes to my mind when facing it. What we saw at Worlds maybe makes it stand above all else. It's always really interesting. It feels like, you know how Yamoja went through just like a brief period where there hadn't been too much changed about her, and she just kind of fell off the face of the planet for like a few sets. Like, she'd be banned, but it'd be like the bottom 4, or she'd get picked
people
in like
got bored of
number
playing
10.
her.
And I feel like it's, in my mind, that's kind of where Maui's at, where it's like, is he bad? Did something happen? It's like, no, all the things he was doing, he still does, and he still does them pretty well. Maybe some others have risen in stock, right? You get dashes as quick as like Horus's are. You get the prots, the mitigations that like a Terra can bring. And maybe Maui isn't as glamorous up front, but man, he's still good, and I'm expecting the Kings to have a good run with him. You had mentioned it, but we're locked in with the Ram. And then a classic for Twig closes out his top 3 with the Hunbats.
Massive bit of AoE, good CC output, strong at level 5, can act as that bridge into the late game, another initiator for your squad, simplifies the 5-on-5 engagement once you get to that point. That is an if, by the way, when you're playing against the Oni Warriors, if you get to that point, because they've been so dominant throughout the early. Worth noting that Hunbots into the Earthen Fury will always proc the defensive proc. That tick damage from Fear No Evil just gives over that burst of healing every single time. So a small win there for the Oni Warriors, so long as Earthen Fury is finding priority targets, plus the 10% damage mitigation buff now onto Terra's ultimate. Makes her feel very good in matchups like this. What now do the Oni Warriors look towards? It's a much more standard mage selection. It's not just, hey, I'm going to burst you at level 5. It doesn't exactly have that solo potential that a Hebo does. But I'm curious about this soul lane selection. It's actually the Oni Warriors themselves that take the Hades out of the table, ban it away. Where does SOT look from this position? Seems like damage just is the answer for him. Doesn't necessarily need to go in towards these tankier targets. Instead has been really making his money by being just another massive threat on map.
Do you think he'd play Thor?
He could.
Has Thor solo really been super impressive so far, at least this year?
This calendar year, yes. The phase or season 10, maybe not so much. Other picks, he's gone towards Raven recently. Tyr has been a consistent pick for SOT as well. But in 10-3, a lot of those gods have seen some changes that may have affected their viability out of the soul lane. What does this composition need from the Oni Warriors? A little bit of more initiation, I think, would do them well, and Guan Yu certainly fits that role. Less healing than he once had, but now gives cooldown reduction to everyone affected by his heal. I believe it's 1 second off of their cooldowns.
Yeah.
Just high utility. You like Cloak the Ascetic? What if it was built into your kit?
I mean, man, that sounds really good. And yeah, no, he brings a lot to the table in a way that I think, I mean, hell, he was on the rise before too, so it feels like he's just going to be more than happy to be played. A few solo laners out there who are definitely favoring the Guan maybe a little more often than some of the others. But like you said, the way he's going to be helping his team feels a little bit stronger. It feels different, though, in terms of how teams, or I should just say comps in total, have gone. You know, this is very standard, I think, for the Warriors, right? Izanami still keeps a lot of pressure up there, but outside of the last couple of drafts, the ones that they've definitely done maybe a little stronger on, this feels a lot more regular SMITE than it does hold W and just run it down.
But even with that, it still is a very high pressure composition. Yeah. The only one sacrificing pressure, I think, is likely Pegon out of mid. Merlin holds his own in lane, isn't necessarily a lane bully. Has got a bit of poke potential once you get a couple of items under your belt and the transformation leveled up a few times. Then you've got a little bit more solo potential, but up against the Tiamat, I think it's pretty unlikely that we see an explosive performance from Pegon in the laning phase. But Guan Yu, very strong in lane, has the potential to bully, good sustain, great CC lockdown if a jungler gets involved. Susano, we've seen how quickly he comes online nowadays. Yeah. Jotuns, Hydras, and you're ready to rock. And then Izanami, a pick that had been banned in the previous match. Highest pressure duo laner, highest pressure hunter perhaps in the game, just thanks to those piercing auto attacks. So could be that the Oni Warriors try and establish a similar pace to what we have seen. It's whether or not the Kings can withstand it. And I'd argue they've got a very safe composition. CC immunity just about across the board here. Available for everyone except for the Hun bots, but operating in the jungle means it's a little bit more difficult to lock down exactly where you're going to be anyway. And then you've got great counter engage tools, Maui's ultimate, Hun bot's ultimate, even space creation tools like the Colossal Fury from Vamana. You can just walk through the Monolith from Terra, walk through a Guan Yu ultimate and prevent any form of follow-up on that stun. If you can close gap onto this Merlin and make sure he isn't sinking artillery damage off the back of a cavalry charge or a root from Terra, all of a sudden the Oni Warriors team fight starts to look a little bit worse.
Yeah. Definitely makes things, I think, spicy, right? When we're getting into this game 4. Talu Assault also got a small change, and it feels small, right? Stacks from 3 to 4, but remembering that like steals prots, things like that. One of the things, I can't remember who streamed, it must have been like Nika or maybe Fine OK. You can get a lot of prots if you are shredding through a tank, and so I'm going to keep my eyes on that, seeing what he's going to potentially enable for his team. You had mentioned some of the things that the Kings have coming into this Vamana, closing things out. We've seen a lot of really good Vamana play as of late. In lane versus a Guan Yu, how does that feel? And then late game, after they start joining some of these fights, what do they bring in?
They bring very similar facets to the team fight in the late game. It's, hey, I've gone into my massive CC immune ultimate and I've run down their backline, right? It's very similar in execution.
Damn, that actually described them both really well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there. Good luck getting past me. One's got a stun, one's got more consistent damage. But in the laning phase, I'm not so certain that either interacts with each other in any interesting way.
They're just like, hey, man.
Clear wave. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it often just be walk past each other, clear the wave, and go walk into the jungle and see if you can steal something there. Not a whole lot of interaction between the two.
Nothing as fun over there as I maybe would have liked. With the Hades, it was a lot more pops, definitely some flair I think that could happen over there. A lot that you could do when you join the team fight. But right now the question is whether or not we'll go to game number 5. Can the Kings push us there? Will the Warriors end it here? Let's find out one more time, at least with J-Mac and Trelly.
The Oni Warriors are 1 game away from moving on to Grand Final Sundays. The Kings have got to win 2 straight if they want to go and meet the Jade Dragons to fight up in for our final match of the Kickoff tournament. But they got to get through the red-hot Oni Warriors, who have been on fire since game number 2. A bit of a slow game 3 from the Oni Warriors. Wasn't the greatest early start from them, but the late-game explosiveness from Pegon was able to net a turnaround and now bring them up at least a set point for the Oni Warriors. It's J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug coming back for game number 4. And at least our prayers are answered, Trelly. The Habwa is gone from Pegon. The Hades not for SOT anymore. Now let's see what the Oni Warriors can do with two of their big power players on something different.
I do like what the Camelot Kings have done with their draft to try and combat, you know, what the Oni Warriors have been able to do for the past 2 games. Twig gets a big CC ultimate in one of his favorite picks from pretty much all time, the Hunbats. Variety, you know, he's on Vamana. That doesn't really change. But Genetics on the Maui as well. I think giving them both these ultimates that can absolutely change the tides of these fights really does help out, because I think they were getting stopped pretty easily. On the opposite side, they took away the Hades, they took away the Hebo, and now you put Sod onto the Guan Yu, which can't do as much damage, of course, and then Pegon on the Merlin. That's not going to have that instant delete key, a completely different style of mage. So it seems like the Camelot Kings are trying to put a stop to the Oni Warriors' complete playstyle in the past 2 games. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some early ganks. Twig does have the blink, level 5. He's got opportunities to get active.
Interesting. Okay, so now actually getting a moment to see how exactly the start goes for the Kings. We've even seen, you know, from the mini-map perspective where they draw all the buff camps together. And I was wondering how it was that Variety and BigManTingz were hitting level 2, but CaptainTwig wasn't.
Solo the minion.
They'd soloed one small minion each in their camp before dragging all 3 of them together. That gives at least Variety and BigManTingz level 2 jumping into the lane up against their opposition. At least for SOT, who is only level 1 walking in. Interesting to see that. And that's kind of the thing that I've been really looking forward to the most out of a lot of these matchups, is how these early games start out. And for some teams, how it opens up a potential path to fight in this dual lane, because this has been a hot topic to go towards. Jarcorrr low because of the starting, at least for the relic selection, that both Jake and Genetics have gone towards that horrific emblem to start things out. Nearly nets a kill. Variety's got to be careful. Has to get away, but Panitom on the way. Should be able to make it for a nice and easy first blood for the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, Panitom didn't even have blink there. I was like, oh, when's the blink coming? And I looked, he's got beads, and then I realized
he's walked up.
Variety wasn't even escaping. He's walked up as if there was nothing going on. Maybe some ward vision changes that, doesn't really matter. First blood going the way of SOT. I think he stole that one. Panitom definitely could have just got the first blood, finished that Transcendence, and continued. There was no way Variety was making it out. But I guess, hey, a fed Guan's a fed Guan. Again, providing a lot for the team with the heal and things like that. Netrioid now taking a ton of damage. He really held those beads. I'm thinking I probably would have used them, but hey, it worked out. He was able to survive, and as long as CaptainTwig doesn't show up, he'll be just fine.
Well, I would have. The moment I got
I'm
stunned,
beating for sure.
The moment that stun connects, I'm hitting beads, I'm backing away. I'm not letting that hook pull me that close to Jarcorrr, and then subsequently Genetics along with it. Panitom rotates back over, though, to the solo lane, maybe looking for another pick, either on Variety or on a CaptainTwig if he decides to walk in. But CaptainTwig gonna go for the loop around blue buff steal. Top side of the map, Oni Warriors will split away, or at least Panitom will steal blue. And so CaptainTwig will answer in kind.
Is he going to speed, though?
Looks like it is speed buff for CaptainTwig. Gonna get 2 buffs for the
Pegon.
price of 1. Pegon on the way. We'll see CaptainTwig on the way out. Twig not level 5 yet, so no ultimate available, but hey, Twig nets a pretty nice little benefit there.
Yeah, I was wondering where Panitom went next. Obviously, Panitom can just go for Twig speed, but decided to go for the red buff instead, trying to steal it away from Tingz, and because of that, losing a little bit of opportunity there. But at the very least, you're mirroring the invades, right? You saw Twig, he said, wait, you're taking my teammate's blue? All right, I'll take yours. You go for speed, I still have that opportunity. I'm going to try and get as much farm as possible without fighting, because Panitom is a little bit scarier than Hunbats in the early. Once Hunbats gets that ultimate, Panitom does have the beat to try and counteract it, but Twig's getting aggressive. I mean, he has that blink for a reason. He wants to fight at level 5. He does not want to sit back. So getting to level 5 from an even point, definitely a smart call. And now, once you get access to Fear No Evil, you can try and force some fights really wherever there's beads to be had. I mean, you get them down, you can force them out, or you can just go on these targets that don't have beads, mainly SOT and, of course, Awesome Jake.
Yard holding on to his beads. Use them from the silence. A swing in from Genetics. The Typhoon's not enough damage, and the snipes just throw there. Panitom wants to keep fighting, but he gets yanked in by Genetics on the hook. And it'll be no kill on Jarcorrr in the opposite lane, as the mid laners will actually bout it out for a little bit. And Pegon actually winning out on this trade against BMT.
Doing some good poke. Doesn't seem like BMT is really interested in fighting. As we've seen, he wants to get ahead and farm, and that's it. He's not looking for solo kills, he's not looking for scraps, but Genetics, level 4, should be in some trouble here. Terrific gets popped, and he's basically walking in place here, has not moved from that spot. Some juke shoes. He's gonna die here, surely.
He's gotta go down. One more auto? Panitom gets it?
There it is.
Panitom gets it. It would have been a swing into the purple buff anyways, so not much further he could have gone, just buying more time, but a kill for Panitom would have been 2 kills for him, if not the one for SOT earlier, but now CaptainTwig is here. No ult from SOT, should be a free kill. Up against him, he gets the heal, tries to fight back, but unfortunately that heal is not as potent as it once was, and CaptainTwig nets a kill for the Camelot Kings.
Good answer back. Remember, it was right on time for blue buff, so you have to think Panitom's close by, steps over a ward, so Variety knows time to get out, but CaptainTwig is going to walk right up to him, knowing exactly where he was. A questionable call. There's no way they're able to fight this, but Panitom wants to take the buff. With no ultimate available, Twig's just going for the steal. He wants Panitom to pull and give his best shot at trying to confirm this buff.
Well, Panitom ults. Typhoon doesn't connect. Panitom will teleport past him. Variety is shown back up. Panitom will now have to dash away, but SOT is back from the fray. Will land right on top of CaptainTwig, and the Tallow Assault to turn it back around and rub salt back into the wound of the jungler who just took him down. SoloOrTroll now with his 2nd kill of the game.
And that's going to be an easy blue buff confirmation. Not the steal they were going for, but hey, Panitom gets out of trouble, sets up SOT for a kill. Pretty happy with that one, sitting at 3-1 and the gold lead to boot. And this is different, I mean, because we've seen a few solo lane attempted ganks, but a lot of duo lane fighting this time around. Of course, Panitom heads over to left. We see the horrific emblem pop to get down Genetics, but it's been back and forth. It's been a lot of, oh, buff spawning, let's go left, buff spawning, we go right. SOT wants a chance at a solo kill with Tallow Assault. Would have not done enough damage. Just going to eat some damage from the tower, go back to base. Teleport's up in about 30 seconds, so that HP is not the worst thing in the world, especially when Variety is just teleporting back in. You realize you're probably not going to be in too much of a scrap. Both HP bars were very low in that situation.
SOT picks up his chalice, a little bit of extra sustain in lane, as if he didn't already had a decent bit. Just being the nature of a Guan Yu. Curious as to where this shield is going to go for him. Glad Shield, I gotta imagine, is probably the likely call, at least for this Guan Yu. We'll see what SOT continues down his build path. Variety either hasn't had a chance to go back to base to spin up the gold, or just hasn't been getting the gold. I imagine it's the former of the two, because he's been sitting on that 1,000-fold blade for quite some time. Yeah, 1,500 gold in hand. He'll finally be able to upgrade that item.
Sot really wanted to stop that one. And
He really did.
I don't blame him, because making a Vamana sit back with no teleport for 70 seconds is annoying, because you really need that golden blade. But here comes a full-on rotation, but Twig actually is going to take some good damage. Here's the ult and uses the beads.
Typhoon is there. CaptainTwig will jump over it once again. Netrioid is low, but finally we'll go down to 1-for-1. Trade out Awesome Jake. Now nowhere to go. We'll turn around and punch back as SOT and Pegon are on the way. The Guan Yu has shown up. Finds 3 on the initial swipe and should find 2 on the stun. Gets the beads from Jarcorrr, the ultimate from BigManTingz. Jake shows back up, finds the root on no one to pull back onto Genetics. Will use the ultimate, but it's only to his own doom. Pegon, credit to the kill. And now 2 of them for the Oni Warriors.
And this is what we're talking about when we say upgrade your teleports. SOT, he pokes out Variety, makes him waste his teleport. He doesn't even have it used. And now he's able to make this clutch rotation over to left lane, which by all means should have never happened. But because it did, the Horus comes through, you get some good relics, and you find that kill. Nothing is to be done about it. Variety does the swap too. It looks like Netrioid's going to cover the right side wave because SOT makes that rotation all the way over to left.
SOT gets a wave in left, Netrioid gets a wave in right, maybe 2. He'll at least pull out the blue buff to help him out. Variety ends up getting a steal on the red buff. Pegon missing out on the XP and farm there. So an unfortunate position for the Merlin, but Pegon 1-0 to start things out with 5 kills across the board for the Oni Warriors. And Panitom, the man of the hour, has been at point for all 5 of those so far, has been the setup for his team. Couple of good Typhoon placements, but unfortunately for him, CaptainTwig has jumped over both of them, has really delayed some of these kills.
It's definitely mind games, right? Because if you do it too early, you don't get the knock-up and you don't get the damage. And then if you hold it too long, then Twig's always going to be able to jump over it. Either way, it's been connecting pretty consistently with everyone else besides Twig, so you still get the value of using that Typhoon. Because it's only 5-2. The gold is not as high as it should be just by nature of good farming by the Camelot Kings. And it doesn't look like anything is going to stop here. Awesome Jake is trying to force out as much as he can from Tingz. The beats are down for a minute, but Awesome Jake's in trouble.
Stun onto Jake, and the Fear No Evil as well. Knockup is there, but all this CC thrown to the Terra and no kill to show for. Pegon yanked back in on the hook from Genetics, but even that is not enough to take down one of the members of the Oni Warriors. That Gauntlet of Thebes not even fully stacked up by Jake, but gave him so many procs and so much sustain through that fight.
And it's not enough damage this early on. BigManTingz and Genetics still a threat though. Walking forward as Panitom is sort of hiding in the speed. Okay, he's going to back. I was going to say, that shield buff is nice, but I don't think it's worth your life there. Doesn't have the beads available to try and go for anything, so just going to back up. Wants to save those for a 1v1 with CaptainTwig, or just a good opportunity. I think the jungle style that we've seen so far this tournament has been a lot of either A, following the enemy jungler around. You see Twigs on right, you go right. You see Twigs on left, you go left. Or just going to the opposite. You say, hey, let's try and survive. I'm going to go for a counter gank. Panitom has been trying to fight with Twig. Because of that, those beads are such a valuable resource. He does not want to go in while they're down or waste them when Hunbatz is not in play. Maybe a 1v1 opportunity here. Panitom just wants some poke.
We'll find at least about a quarter of CaptainTwig's HP, and still sticking around this red buff. Might even try and go for a steal up against the buff. Actually forces it all the way to the tier 1 tower just to make sure that it can't be stolen away. It opens the door for the Pyromancer now, for the Oni Warriors to start up. This early game has been explosive for them to start out. Is continuing that trend. SOT goes up on the charge, stunned onto Genetics, but he's also rather tanky. Cuts off an opening, but Pegon will be fine. Genetics is taking a lot of time away from the Oni Warriors, still living for a moment. Panitom will finally shut him down to get the killing spree for the jungler, and 6 kills for the Oni Warriors in total.
Yeah, Genetics wanted to go for that steal, unfortunately was not able to step up, but CaptainTwig has his ultimate if he wants to try and go for a play here. This tower could be a good spot to do it. Panitom's not looking too healthy, and the rotation in from Variety. The Kings just shown they might want to go either for gold or for a dive under this tier 1 tower, but it's not going to be easy.
Pegon finds Variety, who gets caught out,
He's
makes
gone.
it up into the Colossal Fury, but only to fall right back down. 2-0-1 now for the mid laner of the Oni Warriors, and SOT is going to continue his charge up, but he's not able to stop CaptainTwig. Teleporting back into Genetics. Jake standing by with Pegon as well. A lot of damage from this Merlin, and it's going to force CaptainTwig out of the fight.
I want to see a pull here. I think the Oni Warriors have the ability to go for this gold free. They're going to start it up. Jarcorr's nearby. Remember, he's got the snipe, something you got to watch out for. Where's the rest of the team? Not nearby. They're playing zone duty, but here comes Panitom looking for Jarcorrr. That's going to be an easy fight to take. At the very least, just trying to get Yark away.
Finds a jet stream in, but Panitom is losing now.
Oh my
the
goodness.
damage is raining through. The crits are massive from Jarcorrr. Typhoon to secure the gold, but Variety will pick up Panitom. That's a shutdown on the jungler. Jake is low. Pegon fires off some damage. The snipes in the sky. Not going to be enough from Jarcorrr, but it's a teleport in, and now a full retreat from the Oni Warriors. But SOT goes back in, finds a stun onto Variety. But this is all just to buy time for the Oni Warriors to escape.
Yeah, full-on retreat there. I said an easy fight, and it would have been if Panitom wanted to fight, but he got as close as he could to Yark and then decided to use no more abilities because he used them all to try and chase down. After that, he ate so many auto attacks, plenty of crits. Unfortunately, this gets caught out. You're giving a 3-0 shutdown to Jarcorrr on Rama. Not a good look. That man with a little bit of a lead can carry a game away. Unfortunate. You get the Fury, of course, and you're able to get most of your team out, but losing the jungler there, the 3-0 jungler at that, Panitom. Bit of a mistake just trying to zone out the snipes. I'm thinking the 50-50, much more worth than losing your 3-0 kill streak.
Looking at the Oni Warriors with the start that they had, at least being able to secure the Gold Fury helps kind of keep things evened out. But as we start approaching the mid game, as we start making our way towards these level 15s, upwards towards the level 20s, we'll hold that as Jake pushing against the wall under tower. Should go down to the tower shots. Great placement of that ult by CaptainTwig to eat the full duration there. Pegon being chased out by Variety. Beads expended to get away from the slow from the Vamana. Panitom not even able to really get into that fight, but a teleport in from CaptainTwig. A jumps will slow him down. Typhoon out, but it's CaptainTwig with another one. A delayed double kill for the jungler of the Kings. They found a way to fight back into this game, and it's so far been a lot of it through Variety and through CaptainTwig to push this one back in.
These fights don't seem like they're over. I mean, trying to chase down Variety there, force the ult with the tower. Stays alive by a sliver, but SOT still wants to scrap here. Not too much left over to fight over. I think Jarcorrr making the correct play, saying, hey, I'm not rotating over. I want farm. You guys do what you want. I mean, let's take a relic tab here. Almost everything is down for at least a little bit longer. It is scary for either one of these teams to try and look for a fight around the Pyromancer that is going to be spawning in here shortly. I do think fighting around SOT has definitely been working here for the Oni Warriors. Good stuns, good shred, and more importantly, those cooldown resets that SOT's been able to provide for his team and himself have been helping, but it looks like that is the call. Set up around the Fury, or I guess the Pyromancer, and just let SOT play zone duty for a bit.
SOT is doing just that, but he can't zone up against 4 wall by Jake. Cuts off a couple of options, and a Fear No Evil will force the cavalry charge from the solo laner of the Warriors. And now a Pyromancer start by the Camelot Kings. Only CaptainTwig really utilized his ultimate during that fight. Still a lot to fight back with. Awesome Jake walks up. Pyromancer goes to the Camelot Kings, but SOT has returned to the backline with his teleport. Nearly takes out Jarcorrr, but he's going to need some extra damage from the remainder of the team to take anybody down. It seems it'll just be a Pyromancer for the Kings.
I mean, Jake makes a fantastic wall there, but no one was there for the follow-up. Tingz dashed into the wall and was not able to get out. Didn't have the beads, was just stuck, but I think Pegon was a bit worried. Variety was doing a great job of zoning out Panitom. This Famana, despite constantly going in, has been a big enough threat with the Golden Blade and the Berserker Shield to try and keep the carries of the Oni Warriors a little bit far out of the fight. But what that Pyro did do is even up the Gold Lead and actually put it in favor of the Camelot Kings, meaning next Primal Fury fight, it's going to be a relatively even stay, and I think it's going to be a lot on, number one, can the level 16 Hunbats find an impactful ult, which I think CaptainTwig has been finding consistently throughout this game, and number two, who's going to have their relics up? Pegon and Panitom don't have beads for another 15 seconds or so. Besides that, looking like a good opportunity for the Kings here to start this fight.
Panitom just barely gets away from that hook from Genetics, who finds a double stun on landing. Panitom yanked back in, and the option cut off by the island. Panitom is stuck, and Jarcorrr gets the credit for the kill. Now it's Awesome Jake on the run, but he's being batted away by the entirety of the Camelot Kings. CaptainTwig on a killing spree with the Hunt Bats. And the Kings, what started off so unfavorably for them at the beginning of this game, has now turned completely on its head. But Pegon wants some of this action, wants a fight up against Variety, and nearly does get the kill there. But now to CaptainTwig back in, it's got to be a full retreat for the Kings.
I mean, they're going to have to try. Here comes Jarcorrr and BigManTingz. There's going to be a slow coming from the Tiamat at the very least. SOT's going to have to play zone duty, and luckily, that slow does not connect. So now it looks like a possible rotation over to fire. That's a risky call, and it looks like it's not fire. Just around fire as they go for the full-on retreat. Pegon definitely does good damage. I thought dashing in there to a Vamano was a bit risky, but once you look at Variety's build, you realize why. No magical defense. Just Berserkers into probably Glad Shield, and then what? You've got nothing to deal with this Merlin that's absolutely shredding. Doesn't seem to matter because Variety was able to get out there, and of course, Camelot Kings are dominating on the left side of the map. Still got to keep your tabs on that Merlin. He's able to do a lot of burden damage if you let him free cast.
I know earlier I was going to ask you, with the momentum the Warriors had, maybe where the Kings could find some opportunities to push back and kind of retake some of that lead. They answered my question before I even got a chance to ask it, which was find a pick onto Awesome Jake inside the tower and then turn that into at least a tier 1 tower and a couple kills after. Now, maybe I asked that at least for the Oni Warriors, kind of where their avenue to come back through. Obviously, not down far, only about 1,800 gold, but it feels like all the momentum is here for the Camelot Kings. So where do the Warriors find an opportunity to kind of pull the rug out from under them?
Yeah, the tide has definitely turned. This is showing up all Kings all the time. And I'm thinking trying to shut down CaptainTwig could be the call. Letting him get an ult off how he wants to has not been working. It needs to be a defensive ult, something that the Oni Warriors have forced for them to get any bit of value out of these fights so far. And keep playing through Pegon. I mean, he's sitting at 2-0. He's got plenty of damage. Netrioid is a little bit behind itemization-wise, but still does have the Demon Blade. He's got the crit chance, he's got the Boomerang as well. Play through your carries. They have plenty of damage to go, and more specifically, let Panitom free farm for a bit. He's got to catch up. 2 levels down, a full item down, just a brawlers down to CaptainTwig. That is a big differential in damage.
Can we see the golden hand for Panitom to see if he's holding on to something? 1500 almost. So a tier 2 item, but a Pyromancer for the Kings means it's going to be even harder for Panitom to farm back up, especially with Variety in the backline. Completely tormenting him now with a Fear No Evil. Variety has been left by himself, but he'll be able to get a little bit of that shielding back through. Panitom barely scrapes out. The Maui ultimate will only hit Netrioid, but he doesn't get yanked back in. Instead, it's right up against the wall. And the Camelot Kings, they take a Pyromancer, but not going to find anything more beyond there. We'll just go ahead for Variety, pick up the Runic Bomb, and now 2 in pocket for the Kings.
Definitely could have went worse. You lose Pegon's beads, you lose Netrioid's beads and Shell. Besides that, your team does not fall. I think if Twig's ult was a little bit further down, and of course if Netrioid was not on the other side of that wall with the Maui ultimate, that could have been disastrous. SOT gonna start the pull here. They've got good shred, they've got Merlin. It's gonna be a 50-50. Genetics and Tingz are only ones here.
But Genetics does have a Runic Bomb to try and take this one away. The Oni Warriors get the fire. Genetics might just go down. Does manage to get the swing up. Goes around the wall. Panitom chased him out. SOT finds a stun on Variety, who is dying to the damage of the Merlin. You need some magic defense to deal with Pegon. And now it's Jarcorrr almost down. BigManTingz and Jarcorrr, both Aegises expended to get away. But Panitom and the Oni Warriors charge in. BigManTingz uses only CC immunity to get away. And Genetics, who is distracting as long as he can, keeps Jake locked under tower for the shot. And a shutdown for Captain. A double kill now for Twig. And he could go a little bit further. Fear No Evil is there. He's got SOT. He's got Pegon. It's a triple for CaptainTwig. The tower nearly takes out Sod. SOT walks away. Netrioid just missed out on getting hit by the Sacred Monkey. It's a triple for the Kings, but fire on 2 for the Warriors.
I mean, I love that chase down, but diving the tier 2 tower, that's a bit much, especially when there's a full health Hunbatz who has ultimate, or at the very least hasn't ulted yet in this fight. It wasn't quite up towards the chase, but it came up clutch moments. And CaptainTwig, I mean, if that Sacred Monkey toss hits, we're looking at a penta, almost guaranteed. Netrioid would have bounced it to SOT. 1 Hydra's proc into the jump onto the Iza, and you're getting wiped here. I even love that fire pull. I mean, everything up until the chase. Tier 2 tower was a bit much. Awesome Jake might have baited the team a little bit, but now SOT shows up with his fire buff, wants to go for the steal, can't grab it. The Kings are going to get that Fury, and they're able to back up. At the very least, Netrioid still does have that buff. Having Iza with the Fire Giant buff means there's a possibility of grouping up to push. But remember, the gold certainly still in the Camelot Kings' favor after a shutdown like that.
The Oni Warriors delay the game maybe at best for a little while longer. But a 3K deficit against the Kings.
It's just
23 minutes in.
He's got that 3K in hand.
Yeah. Goes back, picks up a Bumba Spear and a tier 1 Morningstar as well. And is that full item up over the opposition. Panitom has just not been able to get that same level of farm. Got a little bit from getting those kills during the last team fight, but still needs a little more to match the DPS output that CaptainTwig has on this Hun Batz. A lot of this action has been started up because of CaptainTwig. Effective 9 of the 10 kills is the jungler for the Camelot Kings. And Genetics as well has really been a big part of these. Even if these islands haven't been necessarily connecting onto the ideal targets, he has been cutting off quite a few paths in these last couple engagements.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's the thing. You're not really noticing when all the bracers and the horrifics are being used in the middle of those scraps, but I think Genetics has been making huge waves in the middle of these team fights. Fire Giant's coming back up here, as well as the Pyromancer, and it seems like a full-on grouping. But I'm looking at the beads timers. Only SOT's missing them for now, as it looks like Jarcorr's Aegis is going to come back up as well, so still, CaptainTwig's work's cut out for him here. Last time, the beads were already grabbed for him. This time, he's probably going to have to get those himself, or let Genetics and Variety try and do most of the diving. But we're looking at a relatively even Pyro pull. It's just been pretty much those upgraded items, but the Monkey Toss going to the backline, you cannot let that happen.
Fortunate for the Oni Warriors. CaptainTwig not wanting to dive in the middle of 4 of them by himself. If a couple other members of the Camelot Kings were standing by, we might see an engagement there by the Kings. Pyromancer does go to the Chaos side team now. Leading a meter retreat from both squads. Not willing to stick around, even despite the fact that Fire's about to spawn in about 10 seconds. It seems that the Oni Warriors have now realized just how close that cooldown is, but the Camelot Kings have spread out. CaptainTwig isn't nearby, but neither is the rest of the Oni Warriors. No one going to go, at least for the immediate spawn up of the Fire Giant.
Yeah, it looked like Tiggs wanted to put some lizards over and left, but realized he didn't have the chance. And CaptainTwig, his lead is dwindling just by nature of Panitom sort of avoiding fights and just farming. He finally was able to match that Bumba Spear, which helps out a ton starter item-wise, matching up against the 7-2 Hunbats on the opposition. So Panitom still does have some great burst potential. And of course, we've mentioned it a few times, Variety got Shogun, so a little bit of magical defense to deal with how much he's been getting shredded by Pegon. I mean, you can't just Colossal Fury in the back line and Pegon just dumps the kid on you. Even with one defense item, it's not going to be enough. But he gets a little bit more tanky, a little bit more attack speed, and that annoyance factor that Variety can bring is certainly there. Finally, the Lizards are pushing down, which means the Oni Warriors might have to deal with those left side waves as the Camelot Kings want to go for a pull on the Fire Giant. Burst damage, though? I'm not seeing the one key ability that's going to be going for, like, the confirmation on this Fire Giant. Genetics has a Runic Bomb, of course, but whenever there's a Typhoon, it can mess up your timings. The big knockup can mess up your DPS. You got to keep your eyes on Panitom and, of course, CaptainTwig, because Fear No Evil, that can also mess up your DPS. These junglers have a lot of control around who gets this Fire Giant and how the pull even begins. I mean, I imagine if the Oni Warriors knew that Variety is getting purple buff right now, they might feel more confident going for a pull, but they've got no clue.
Panitom on the way. Oni Warriors inside the pit, started up the fire. What will be the answer for both of these squads? Will it be a commit on the objective? Will it be a forcing of the fight? Now with all 10 members starting to group around the map, it seems that it's a bait forward. At least for the Oni Warriors to try and get the Kings to step up. Now that the Kings have, it's all about the resustain to try and stay alive and stay healthy for this next Fire Giant fight. Genetics wanted to go back to base, but ended up canceling his back for a moment. Gets a little bit of ward coverage out, will now return back so he can come back at full strength for the next fight. The Oni Warriors, with what little poke they put out there, give a little bit of a heat check over to Genetics and the Kings.
Yeah, as Tings had to put the Lizards on right side, so left side tower, not under any threat for the time being. As it does just seem to be a full-on grouping. I mean, Variety's been running away to split push. He was able to upgrade that Tainted Amulet. And now the Fire Giant has begun. It's already half health.
Half HP. Jake tries to go in. Fear No Evil used. But Oni Warriors will steal it away. Was that the Typhoon from Panitom? Does not matter. SoloOrTroll to the backline takes out CaptainTwig. And it was Panitom to steal the fire and maybe even steal the show. Where will Genetics fall down? It's in the middle of 3 old blocks off the path. But it seals his own doom. The Oni Warriors steal the fire and take down 2.
And I think that Twig did a great job. I said, you know, these junglers have a lot of control over who gets fire. It was a good Fear No Evil. You just got to make sure you get Panitom in it next time because Typhoon steals it away in SOT. Make sure to follow up on the damage to confirm that kill. On to Twig. Now right side Birds being looked at. Complete flip of the script. The Oni Warriors are pushing down.
3 alive for the Kings. They've got some pretty high damage with the ones that are up. The Phoenix is melting at the might of the Warriors. SOT and Panitom going. Yark is gone. Variety is gone. BigManTingz, the only one left. But CaptainTwig up in 3 seconds. Genetics right behind, and that seems to be the call for the Warriors to back out. Thought for a moment we might see an end, but the Warriors, discipline, will not continue to chase forward.
And that's some great discipline, because if I get that double kill, I'm saying we go for the end, we go for the end, and then you realize, wait, Twig's up, we have 3 low health bars, and he's got Fear No Evil. Probably better that we just play this one safe, grab the tier 2 in mid, push down some towers and left. Gold-wise, this game is completely even still. Map state-wise, it's been flipped on its head. Keep your eye on Twig. Left side jungle. There is a bracer there. He can get very powerful if he comes through with this blink. Doesn't have the beads, but Fear No Evil could change the tide of this fight.
All the carries have
There it
beads.
is.
Pegon stun, he'll use the beads immediately. Aegis as well, but Panitom has dealt with BMT in the backline. And when Twig lands back in, it's into the clutches of SOT, who finds the stun, and Netrioid finds the crit. Genetics, the only one back. Now Variety and Jarcorrr have respawned in, but the damage is done. The mid and the right bird have been taken out, and only a minute left on fire. The Warriors will back out and strip out the jungle.
I mean, that was another beautiful double kill where if you weren't paying attention to respawn timers, you might get a little over it. Are they going to go for this? They're walking over a ward. 100% they are walking over a ward. And it looks like they're committing. They have no idea. The Camelot Kings are here.
SOT is so far away. It's over 20 seconds till anybody's back. The 3v4 Variety is dying. There's no chance he lives against Pegon, who's been an absolute menace against the Camelot Kings. Genetics being funneled away from his team. Snipes from Jarcorrr don't do much as Pegon is just melting through these tanks. Genetics and Variety both gone, but the Oni Warriors still cannot continue this push to the Titan.
I mean, if that bracer's not there, I think they're able to make that play. But once again, these respawn timers are not staggered enough. They keep getting double kill after double kill right as the Camelot Kings are coming back up. But that siege started from the Oni Warriors being down. A massive swing. They're able to grab the Primal Fury. There is still a tier 1 tower over on left. But you can see that roller coaster ride of a dip in favor of the Oni Warriors off of a great steal from Panitom. The Typhoon not only steals that Fire Giant, but is able to do so much damage to Twig that SOT chases it down, gets the pick, and they just W key down the right side of the map. I mean, Fire Giant's gone now at this point. It's just been such a long scrap. And the Camelot Kings are missing 2 birds at the end of it. This is going to be enhanced Fire Giant territory next time these teams are meeting up in the jungle. As far as I'm concerned, they've got one shot. The Camelot Kings, with map state like this, they have to bring the fight to the Warriors. And it looks like that's the call. They're grouping up. They do have the Tiamat Lizards pushing some of these fire minions away. But they're going to try and set up an ambush somewhere in this jungle.
The good news for the Kings is that the 2 Phoenixes taken were the ones closest to the Fire Giant pits. They don't have to stray far to at least keep these fire minions out. You can see BMT in the right lane dealing with one wave. The one in mid, though, has been left alone. Variety by himself at the front line for the Camelot Kings around the fire. Genetics charges up the hook, but only Sod is within range to be able to be grabbed. So it'll be a cancel. And look at how the Oni Warriors have spread themselves out in this fight. They are biding their time because Panitom can make his way around the back of the fight, and might just do so
He just missed the ward.
because nobody has noticed that he's back there. Jarcorrr just now spots him, but to pull in, the crits are not enough. Panitom has found a solo kill, and Variety is nearly gone. Pegon has been doing so much damage to these tanks. They just cannot stand up to the might of the mid lane menace of the Oni Warriors. It's another kill for Pegon. He stays alive with Panitom. Genetics throws out the ult, but it's too little, too late. Double kill for Pegon. The Oni Warriors have knocked down the reigning world champs to move on to the grand finals of the Kickoff tournament.
And the Camelot Kings did everything they could do there. They brought the fight to the Warriors, but Panitom sneaks so well around the backline, just barely missing 2 wards, finds Jarcorrr, gets the easy 100-0, and after that, the rest of the team just funnels in. Panitom, Pegon 8-1. SOT, I think, had a phenomenal performance as well. They're just playing lights out. The Oni Warriors started feeling real different in game number 2.
Man, you called it earlier where Variety didn't have any magic defense to fight Pegon, and then he built some, and then Pegon laughed at it. Pegon laughed at what little magical
he built
defense
one
he built.
item. It was not. It was very clearly some. Yeah, not a lot.
A small sum. Unfortunately, that small sum was dealt with instantly by Pegon and the rest of the team. Panitom really set the momentum turning point for his squad, finding that Fire Giant steal. And then Pegon steps up with the rest of the squad. Netrioid as well. The crits raining through. Insane turnaround here by the Oni Warriors. And maybe not the expected team to be the ones that take down the Camelot. This is a team that won Worlds 2 months ago, Trelly.
I was there.
You were there. I was there. We had front row seats.
And they looked real clean. And I'm not going to say that they didn't look clean in this set. I think the Camelot Kings, game number 1, played their game. But the Oni Warriors, with some different style of drafts that maybe the Kings weren't ready for, really shifted the momentum. And since then, CaptainTwig almost dragged it back. but it was all Oni Warriors' favor from like the 10-minute mark and up. Beautiful play.
With it, the Oni Warriors move on to the grand finals of the SPL Kickoff tournament. That'll take place tomorrow. Another best of 5, this time up against the Jade Dragons for their final opponents. That's it for me and Charlie on the cast. We'll throw it to the desk to break it down.
Well, the Kings have been dethroned, Mifflin, and who better to do it than the Warriors? Look, they came in, we had mentioned some of the tweets that they'd mentioned in scrims, and I honestly was ready to throw those out there as a meme because that's always what it is coming into the event, but they've actually done it. After game 1, a couple of bumps in the road, things weren't going well. We were wondering what kind of transition. And it's entirely in the gameplay, man. I mean, the way they stylize their team shifts up, and that was a very, very fun game 4.
It's crazy how the Oni Warriors are almost playing as 5 individual solo agents. 5 guys who are constantly looking for the hero play, constantly looking for the individual playmaking positioning or any sort of bit of action they can find on the map to put themselves in an advantageous position. Generally, the conversation is we don't need heroes, we need a good team. What if everybody's a hero? What if everybody's putting yourselves in the best position? And the only way that you can facilitate that play style is raw mechanical skill. Every single one of them can be trusted to win their 1v1. Every single one of them knows the limits of their characters, where their power spikes lie. It's a byproduct of the immense amount of SMITE that each one of them plays, but just the raw mechanical talent that they each possess as well. But Pegon, I think, a standout here today.
Yeah.
Certainly. He had earned himself a nickname, a title, during his World Championship run. You remember what the crowd was screaming?
What were they screaming, Mifflin?
It was Pay God.
That's what I was thinking.
Pay God walking into the room right now. That's Pay God on your screen, just doing it different. I had said it's not the same level of solo carry potentially. He's not going to put out ridiculous numbers like he did on the Hubwa. He won't be allowed to play as aggressively as he likes on this Merlin. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
8-1-6, 32,000 damage.
Yeah, does better in the KDA, better in the damage, better in the presence on the map, and it feels ridiculous to see just everything that he accomplished in that game. So many moments that feel like they should maybe go crumbling down, and it is the mid laner that comes through. I think JMech at one point calls him the mid lane menace, and that's what it felt like. I mean, the Kings could not catch a break throughout game 4 or game 3. Probably even game 2, but that one was a while ago.
Yep.
Instead of taking it from me, though, you can take it from the man himself. We got Pegon. I almost said Pegon. Pegon standing by for an interview.
I don't know. I think with a performance like that, you might be able to call him Pegon. Yeah, I got Pegon, mid laner for the Oni Warriors, standing by with me. Pegon, kind of walk me through, game number 4 here. You have 2 lights-out performances on the Hobwa games 2 and 3. You see it banned away. What's kind of going through your team communications? What's going through your mind on picks to maybe try and grab a way to jump into this game?
Yeah, we kind of thought they were going to ban Evo, so we were just looking to see what we can top pick instead of it. And I feel like I'm comfortable on a lot of characters, so like I always knew I was going to be okay like with whatever I was going to pick.
And in this game as well, I mean, kind of a quiet early start for you at the least on the Merlin. Comes out, we finally see you really get a square off against Variety, Genetic stepping up. You hit tab at one point, you look and you see there's no magical defense. What's going through your mind when you're walking up to Variety, y'all are almost same level and you're just shredding through them?
Yeah, I was just always calling that we can one-shot this guy. Like, I'm not really scared of him at all. He's got no defense, You just kill him. He's kind of a free kill.
You guys look really good in your setup in here. And remember, this is the reigning world champions, at least with the Camelot Kings coming to the set. Kind of what was your team's expectations up in this one? Is this kind of maybe an expected win? Maybe we'll go out, we'll do what we can, see what we kind of get out there. What was kind of going through your minds to this set?
Yeah, we were actually thinking that we're going to 3-0. Scrims have been going pretty well. We're really confident in ourselves. But we dropped one game because we picked Afro solo, so...
Was this kind of the scrim Oni Warriors? Because we saw what CaptainTwig put out, which is if the Warriors are playing like they do in scrims, this should be a 3-0. After that game 1, is that the kind of the switch that y'all flipped for y'all?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Well, congratulations on the win, Pegon. We'll see you tomorrow in the finals. We'll throw it back to the desk.
Thank you.
Close it out.
The Warriors taking on the Dragons. Pegon actually going to take on at least one former teammate, considering the Dragons had such a tumultuous shift. Former brand, but just Mike over there. So it's going to be a very fun finals for us tomorrow. And again, the path these teams, Mifflin, that they took to get here is not one that was easy for either of them. The Dragons, a couple of bumps in the road there against the Levi's, one against the Hounds. And I have to say, I saw it earlier, but if this is the Hounds, that we're going to be seeing all year. I'm excited to see what we have to say. And if this is the teams, the way and the style of play we're going to be seeing from these guys all year, I'm really excited for what Season 10 has for the SPL. Of course, it's going to be the Dragons taking on the Warriors. Now, a big note, and just to double down on this is not like an April Fool's thing. We are starting the games, the finals, kicks off tomorrow at 1 p.m. Broadcast will start around 12:15. We're going to be talking a little bit, do a little pre-show. There is, after the finals, then the draft show where whoever wins between the Dragons and the Warriors will then start the snake draft, choose who's going in the other group. We'll then choose someone for Group A, Group B, etc., Division A, Division B, things like that. And so make sure you're tuning in around 12:15 when we go live, when we got those things going. But you want to be here around 1 p.m. I'm excited for the finals. Looking at the two teams, Dragons, Warriors, how are you feeling about that set?
They just beat the reigning world champions
Yeah.
in 3-1.
Yeah.
And the 3 they won.
That's
were
the first
convincing.
set that the Kings have lost since November.
Yeah, the Kings were on a record win streak, I believe. They
Mm-hmm.
beat the previous record by 1 or 2 there, cut short by Pegon and the boys, the Oni Warriors. They got the momentum. I might just vote on them.
The Dragons may be feeling a little worried. I know Mike went home, started streaming. He's been watching the footage. He knows who he's going up against, and I'm excited to see what it has to offer. But that's all kicking off tomorrow. Come in around noon. Game starts at 1. We'll see you on Sunday.